Chapter 902. The sky seemed to have darkened, loneliness pervaded the air. Beneath Tang Tian's feet, light sparkled, the black ocean stretched endlessly, it was the ocean of peace. When Tang Tian raised his sword and shouted, "Without knowing if our army is alive or dead, how can we rest in peace?" The undying sword's buzzing resonated through the sky, the clouds in the sky were all shattered, the energy in the world was stirred, surging towards Tang Tian. How can we rest in peace? How can we rest in peace? Without knowing if our army is alive or dead, how can we rest in peace? That's right, I am truly too stupid. Even if they are in the ocean of peace, they will not be honest people, and they have so many people. Bang bang bang! His Qiu offense army had already completed their preparations. Qiu Tianqing's eyes were blazing with fighting intent, his mouth revealing a cold smile. The calm ocean of peace beneath his feet suddenly became restless, the waves became stronger and stronger. Qiu Tianqing did not expect the sword light to explode, and was shocked. A large hole was formed in the autumn mist where the sword light exploded, but a few strands of mist floated over, causing the hole to disappear. But he did not plan to give up. No matter how powerful a sword is, it is still a sword. No matter how powerful a person is, he is still a person. He muttered. He gently pressed down on the sword body and waved it. Tang Tian stood on the ocean of peace. His body seemed to be burning, but his eyes had a complicated look in them. Can't let it go? What else can't you let go of? Qiu Tianqing was already prepared. He knew of the opponent's strength, but he did not think that he had no chance. He sighed in admiration at the sword's stubbornness. It was a true godly weapon. Its might and unimaginable sword technique caused Qiu Tianqing to be shocked. But, in any case, you guys can never win against me in cards. You guys know how good my memory is. Ever since he gained enlightenment on the awakened god armor, he was used to being calm during battles. But, the moment the sword cry came out, all of his calmness was thrown to the back of his mind, and an indescribable excitement surged through his entire body. The Qiu offense army's ultimate killing technique. The sword lights that soared from the ocean of peace also seemed to be endless. Tang Tian had never seen such an army, he had never seen such a soul, he had never seen such conviction. You guys, ha 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 ha, still the same as before. Are you guys so diligent in ruining the ocean of peace? He's been dead for so long, yet he's still so carefree? How can we rest in peace? How can we rest in peace? Alright, they were just that stupid, and he was worried about them. It seemed like he was even more stupid. Ha 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 ha. Woo 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 woo, don't let me run into you guys, or else I'll help you guys recall the past. Ha ha, sob sob sob. The loneliness and sorrow that was as vast as the ocean of peace filled Tang Tian's heart and soul, but at the same time, there was a determination that was even vaster than the ocean of peace, burning Tang Tian's heart and soul. A bitter smile spread across his face. He couldn't help but laugh. He laughed so hard that he bent over and squatted on the ground. What an honor it was to be able to fight side by side with such conviction. The fragments of the sword gleam's explosion were not affected by the airflow at all. They scattered like colorful snowflakes. Ha 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 ha, I'm just as stupid. I've also been dead for a long time. Do you guys know how afraid I've been for the past 10,000 years? How afraid I was of forgetting who I am, of forgetting the army, of forgetting all of you, how afraid I would not remember you if I met you. Do you guys know how hard it is for a lone ghost to live alone for 10,000 years? Do you guys know how boring it is to bring a bunch of skeletons to kill for 10,000 years? To the point of talking to myself, to the point of memorizing all the old and useless things. Do you guys know that I even remember how many toilet papers you guys used and how many left and right hands? As he laughed, he started to cry. His cries became louder and louder. He squatted on the ground and bawled, letting his mucus and snot flow freely. The Qiu Offense Institute beneath his feet was dyed with autumn frost, as though it was covered with a thin layer of snow. A faint mist rose from the ground. The Chiyo Offense Institute was filled with mist, as though it was another world. The energy barrier was removed, and the mist climbed up the walls of the Chiyo Offense Institute and slowly spread out, like a climbing gray rose or a white mist wall. In a moment, the walls of the Chiyo Offense Institute were completely enveloped by the mist. He laughed as he punched the ground, and as he laughed, tears flowed down his cheeks. Xin felt that he was truly stupid. The ones who are going to cry should be the bunch of fools. To give up such a good life, the ocean of peace is such a good place. How much effort did we put in to succeed? But these fools do not know how to cherish it. The sword light that tore through the horizon shone on Xion's youthful face, shining on his aged pupils, causing him to laugh bitterly with self-ridicule. Why are you guys doing this? Why are you guys giving up? Giving up the peace that we worked so hard to obtain? Have you guys forgotten? For the sake of the ocean of peace, how much have we paid, how difficult it was? Have you guys forgotten? Fighting is the mission of the living, and all of you just need to rest in peace? The sword light suddenly exploded, and the scattered light auras scattered all over the ocean of peace like fireworks. Time is like a river, and will always slowly wash away the heat of blood. No need for protection, eternal peace. Tang Tian was like a gigantic whirlpool, one after another. Light rays shot out from all directions, bringing with them soul-stirring screeches. It truly suits the personalities of you fools. He heard the millions of generals roaring out in unwillingness. He heard the heroics of moths flying into flames. He heard a general with a face full of cracks, facing the disappointment and defeat in his heart, towards the endless silent soldiers, towards the lonely and dark ocean of peace, towards the 100 years of slumber and the countless years of failure, towards the army that he deeply loved but did not know if it still existed. He shouted out loudly, rousing the morale, saying that we will meet again in 100 years, saying that we will fight side by side in 100 years. In the restless ocean of peace, one after another, illusory figures slowly floated out from the surface of the ocean. The illusory figures were extremely blurry, like mist and shadows, but one could faintly see that they were human figures. He raised his head, as though he was looking at the sky. He leapt into the air, transforming into a sword light that soared into the sky. The sword hiss was low and powerful, it was fervent and tragic, shooting towards the Chiyo Offense Institute. Sword auras fell like rain. They continued to strike the mist around the Chiyo Offense Institute. When Tang Tian raised the undying sword up high, the low sword hiss was like a whirlwind that revolved around him, replying to him. The explosion seemed to be the prelude to a banquet. The mist around the Chiyo Offense Institute seemed to be endless. The sword lights outside the window were like rain, like the light in the past, illuminating Xian 10,000 years later. The sound of the energy beams tearing through the air became even more ear-piercing, while the undying sword's hiss became even more solemn and tragic. They mixed together, causing Tang Tian's body to tremble uncontrollably. Woo woo woo, I miss all of you. One of the shattered auras did not fall into the ocean, but landed on the ground, and he personally witnessed how it silently created a 200 m wide crater that was so deep that he could not see the bottom. The Sacred Saint Galaxy had long proven that an army was the strongest. Ha ha ha, I still remember all of you, I still remember all of you. It's not that I miss all of you, it's not that I can't bear to part with all of you. I'm just afraid of being embarrassed, I'm just afraid of being embarrassed. It's true. They were souls that had been shattered over 100 times in the past 10,000 years, all because of a strand of hope that was so dim that it was about to melt into the darkness. They had given up on peace, they had endured 100 years of loneliness, in exchange for a chance that had almost no hope of victory. They had ignited all of their light and heat, and then were shattered. They silently licked the wounds that covered their entire bodies, and slept in the darkness, waiting for the awakening after 100 years. He held the undying sword vertically in front of his chest. The words engraved on the sword body were reflected in his eyes. The mist around the Chiyo Offense Institute surged endlessly, as though there was a terrifying monster inside. Every time a sword aura exploded, a large hole would be blasted open in the mist. But in the blink of an eye, the hole that was blasted open would once again be occupied by the mist. There is no need for protection, eternal peace. The 10,000 years of darkness, despair, and bitter struggle were the smoke that they could not penetrate. This tragic scene that was repeated time and time again had nothing to do with victory, but the Southern Cross Army's war flag that had always fluttered in their hearts. He calmed down. The sword auras looked terrifying, but their might was only slightly stronger than ordinary warship weapons. If it was the energy barrier from before, they would not be able to hold on for long, but to shake the autumn frost cold ground. The intensity of the attack was not enough. The old general was no longer brave. He did not speak of victory. He did not speak of success. He only spoke of fighting side by side in 100 years. The old general was no longer brave. They were silent, they were disappointed, and only woke up after 100 years, leaping out from the ocean of peace, striking into the sky, shouting that the life and death of the army was unknown. How can we rest in peace and only shatter? Xiao Man wanted to step forward, but Chia pulled her back and shook his head slightly. Xiao Man bit her lips tightly. The ferocious look in her eyes had disappeared. Bang bang bang! When the tragic sword auras brought forth sharp whistles and dazzling splendor, they struck onto the mist outside the walls of the Chiyo Offense Institute. Do you guys know how to waste the quota? Do you guys know how to waste the blood and sweat of the past? One after another, images transformed into sword auras that soared into the sky. Autumn frost cold ground. Bang! Tang Tian's roar reverberated in the air. The gloomy sword hums responded to him, following his roar, following his agitation, following his roar, following his roar, following his roar, following his roar. It was as though they were spitting out all the unwillingness and anger that had accumulated for 10,000 years, as though they were trying to smooth out their broken faces, as though they were trying to shatter their own resting place. How can I rest in peace? How can I rest in peace? All of you idiots are not resting in peace, in truth. You just want to play cards every day, right? All of you that were abused by me in the past, hurry up and come out. Don't think that I do not remember all of you. Even without me, an expert that can kill everyone on the table, all of you were able to maintain your dignity on the table, but in the end all of you were unable to rest in peace, right? If it was said that he could understand the attacks of the Chiyo Offense Army, but he could not understand the attacks of the masked man at all. That's right, he could not understand them at all. The bewitching and chilling hand, in the end, even though Autumn Wind Offense was unable to contend against it, that was something he had never heard of before. Where did this strange black sea come from? Is it an illusion? And the sword light that flew out from the sea caused him to be even more dumbstruck. The middle-aged man was shocked. It was just a shattered aura. Looking at the snowflake-like shattered aura, his heart could not help but jump. It could completely erase the entire city. Seeing the whistling sword light, the sorrowful and tragic sword light caused him to be moved, but so what? As though their hearts were linked, Tang Tian suddenly took a step forward, his clothes fluttering without any wind. The waves beneath his feet exploded, but he did not feel anything. His gaze was extremely focused. He flipped his wrist and thrusted out the undying sword. Who exactly is he? He squatted on the ground, slapping the floor like a lunatic. He would cry bitterly and laugh foolishly. Tang Tian was extremely excited. The middle-aged man who was spectating from afar had a pale face. The battle in front of him had completely toppled everything he knew. Autumn Wind Offense was the killing technique of the Chiyo Offense Army. He naturally recognized it, but what was the strange mist in front of him? Could this be the true killing technique of the Chiyo Offense Army? Chapter 903. The middle-aged man put away his petty thoughts, and a fierce look flashed in his eyes as he ordered the guards beside him in a low voice. Even in the sacred saint region, A pseudo-law domain was something that only the strongest powerhouses could possess, but he actually saw it in the sacred region. Suddenly, there was a commotion among the elders. News came from inside that Sophie had left the Twilight Palace and was heading towards the Radiant Palace. The clan elders tensed up. Once the great clan elder spoke, Temple's attitude and stance would be set in stone. Sophie's emotions gradually calmed down, her eyes were red, and she apologized to the great clan elder. This subordinate did not receive any orders, and ordered an attack on the Chiu family, causing a bad influence. Please punish me, clan elder. So, from the bottom of his heart, he disapproved of the sacred Saint Galaxy's military army. When Sophie stepped into the sacred hall, she was greeted by the complicated gazes of the elders. She knew what these people were thinking, but she didn't care at all. What did their lives have to do with her? Just like how Jizé saw that there was an army in the sacred Saint Galaxy that had gained enlightenment on a quasi-law domain, Chiu Tianqing had the same feeling. In the sacred Saint Galaxy where armies ruled, seeing a person with a fighting strength comparable to a warship was no different from seeing a ghost. Sophie walked to the door of the Light Palace and knelt down with a plop. Her shoulders twitched and her tears flowed uncontrollably. She lay on the ground and her tears fell to the ground. Her sorrow did not diminish in the slightest. Sophie nodded and changed direction, heading towards the Twilight Palace. That's right, the Honorable Martial Banner of Knights is back. I can sleep more peacefully now. What move was this? After a full 5 minutes, the opponent's sword light still showed no signs of weakening. In truth, ever since he entered the sacred Saint Galaxy, he looked down on the armies and military generals of the sacred Saint Galaxy. None of the people here had comprehended laws. Laws and energy were two completely different levels of power. Tang Tian quickly realized that he had made a mistake in his judgment. Previously, Chiu Tianqing suspected that they were disguised as the Banner of Knights, but now, he felt that even if they were not from the Banner of Knights, they were definitely from Temple. Chiu Tianqing firmly believed that if there was a place that could nurture monsters that could rival warships, it would definitely be Temple. Even in Sin Domain, there was only one person with a domain law domain, and Dooku relied on that to ascend to the throne, becoming the publicly acknowledged #1 in Sin Domain. Looking at her disappearing figure, the elders started to discuss amongst themselves. Jizé could hardly believe his eyes. What kind of joke was this? Quasi-law domain. What are you afraid of? The Honorable Martial Knight Regiment has returned. If they dare to act recklessly, they will be courting death. The holy temple buzzed and trembled. Laws. She stood there, staring at the gate like a statue, and said nothing. This was the reason why it was different from other army killing techniques. Autumn Frost Cold Ground contained the laws of autumn. In a certain sense, Autumn Frost Cold Ground had already surpassed the limits of an army killing technique. Why is he being punished? A low and powerful voice rang out from within the blazing holy flames. The great clan elder was filled with indescribable rage. Those fellows thought I would compromise? They were wrong. I would rather the sanctum collapse than compromise with them. How could a single person maintain such a high attack intensity? Quasi-law domain. But the army that he looked down on was actually able to gain enlightenment on laws, and was even able to form a space similar to a law domain. How could he not feel as though he had seen a ghost? This thought went on for 10 years. When Sophie massacred the Chiu family's encampment, the great clan elder did not express any opinion, and even when Sacred Son Charles was assassinated, the great clan elder did not say a word. Is she still at the entrance of the Twilight Palace? It's already been 2 hours. She acted as though she did not see the clan elders. Holding onto the saber by her waist, without saying a word, she slowly walked deeper into temple. Halfway there, she suddenly spoke. Which palace was His Highness assassinated at? That was a warship-grade attack. Regardless of whether it was the power of the sword light or the frequency of the attack, they were all warship-grade. And it was a gold-grade warship-grade. when Qiu Tianqing created the autumn wind offense. He had always been thinking about how to create an army killing technique that was stronger than the autumn wind offense. Warships were powerful and had sturdy defenses, but there were many limitations to their usage, for example the size of the estuary, or the lack of flexibility in small battlefields. Warships were usually used in the vast sea of energy. But just like how Tang Tian underestimated the autumn frost cold ground, Qiu Tianqing similarly underestimated the undying sword. The torrential sword lights seemed to be endless, and Qiu Tianqing's initially calm expression gradually became serious. They knew that the great clan elder was waiting for Sophie's return. What the hell? That is the ultimate weapon. A quick-witted clan elder immediately replied, "It's the Twilight Palace." A sudden inspiration gave him an epiphany. But that was just the beginning. An army killing technique was never something that a military general could create alone. After spending 5 years, he and his subordinates continued to perfect it, and finally created the strongest killing technique, the autumn frost cold ground. Come on, do you really think that the Qiu family is a pushover? Inside temple, the clan elders were in groups of 3 to 5, discussing softly. Their gazes would occasionally look into the depths of temple. She had been here countless of times. It was her home, the place she was most familiar with the people she was most familiar with. The door was still majestic, the white light was still dense, but the people she was most familiar with could no longer be seen. An intense fear filled his heart. They were like arrows that had been shot, and could no longer turn back. They were too familiar with Temple's style. Even if they were to appease them now, once the situation stabilized, it would be the time to settle the scores, and none of them would be able to escape. Upon activating the autumn frost cold ground, the place where the army would activate the laws of autumn and form a unique autumn territory. The autumn territory was independent and was able to continuously absorb energy. The autumn frost would turn into mist, and it could be said to be endless and endless. Sigh, you can't blame her, she had such a deep relationship with Sacred Son Charles. Upon hearing the news of Sacred Son Charles being assassinated, how could she not lose control? It is because the prestigious families are too arrogant, too daring. We should have taken care of them earlier. We are raising a tiger that will invite calamity. Be sad, since the one who died was Sacred Son Charles. Temple wants to destroy the Qiu family. Similar discussions sounded out from time to time, but none of the clan elders left. They stayed in Temple's largest plaza, waiting for the final news. Not only did they recognize Tang Tian, there was another person, and that was Ji Zhe. The God Armor Army's qualifications were all ordinary, including Fu Jingji. Although he was strong, he was older. Out of all of them, the only one who could be called a genius was Ji Zhe. Shu, be careful of your words. Be careful of the walls. They are a bunch of lunatics. They even dare to assassinate Sacred Son Charles. Why would they place us in their eyes? Because the autumn frost cold ground was different from all the previous army killing technique. The great clan elder's palm that was enveloped by the golden holy flames did not have any burning sensation, but only the power to calm his heart. Compared to individual martial techniques, army killing techniques were much more complicated. It was even more difficult for soldiers to gain enlightenment on laws, and the requirements for killing techniques were even harsher, but as long as they succeeded, the might would be unimaginable. If he said to fight, the entire temple would disregard everything and fight, no matter how much money they spent, no matter how many people died, temple would continue to fight. If the great clan elder said to make peace, it meant that no matter how intense the battle was, no matter how deep the hatred was, temple would still reconcile with the other party. Sophie's return had alarmed all the clan elders. Qiu Tianqing was extremely calm at the start, although the other party's attacks were ferocious, but their autumn frost cold ground was not made of paper. He was extremely confident in the autumn frost cold ground, even though it was the first time he was using it after it was created. If an army was able to unleash a warship-grade attack without a warship, they would be considered elite. As for the person, wouldn't that be a human-shaped warship? How can there be such a person in the world? The great clan elder sighed and caressed Sophie's head. Sophie stood outside the Twilight Palace. For such a serious matter to happen in the Twilight Palace, the inside and outside had long been searched countless of times, even the ground had been dug up, it was a complete mess. I want to let them know how much they overestimate themselves. 15 years of sharpening a sword. The laws contained in the autumn frost cold ground were not in the form of law threads, but law surfaces. It was not even an ordinary law surface. The autumn laws in the space already possessed the embryonic form of a law domain. For example, it could repair itself, which was the most common characteristic of a law domain. Before he had gotten used to using laws to control energy, he was extremely weak. However, once he broke through this barrier, his strength would skyrocket overnight. If we were to say that there was a layer of paper between laws and energy, then the paper from laws to energy would be extremely thin, while the paper from energy to laws would be extremely thick. But a human-shaped warship is too terrifying. It was not affected by the terrain, and possessed unparalleled agility. It was able to attack stealthily, and the might of its attacks was comparable to a warship. She is too rash to actually massacre the Chiu family's encampment. Isn't that just making the conflict even more intense? If the Chiu family was truly destroyed by Temple, then with Temple's might, how many people would dare to face them head-on? At that time, the prestigious family's alliance would be destroyed. At the start, Ji-Ze looked at the Chiu Offense Institute with disdain and contempt, but when the mist blocked the sword light, his face became serious. But very quickly, the shock on his face became more and more, until it became as though he had seen a ghost. It was not only the clan elders who were nervous, all the prestigious families who received the news were also nervous. The great clan elder was the highest existence in Temple. The guard's face became serious, he nodded his head continuously, then turned and left. It's been hard on you, child. If you want to cry, cry out loud, don't keep it in your heart. A warm voice came out from above her head, causing her to become even more upset, and she started to sob silently. The middle-aged man who was watching from afar had a change in expression. He had the same thoughts as Chiu Tianqing. A powerful martial artist that can match up to a warship is definitely Temple's final trump card. To the majority of armies, the difference in fighting strength with a warship and without one was like heaven and earth. She stood quietly outside the door and did not enter. Luckily for her, the autumn frost cold ground was operating smoothly, allowing her to heave a sigh of relief. However, the anger in his heart continued to soar. Sophie stood at the entrance of Temple, inside the majestic door. The dense radiant energy released a white holy light, as though it was another world. Chapter 904. Chiu Tianqing hesitated. He understood the meaning behind the other party's words. The other party's meaning was clear. At such a crucial time, they did not want to complicate matters, and even if there were any disputes, they had to be decisive. Xiao Man immediately felt uncomfortable and asked, "Miss, what's with your expression?" On the trading ship, Xiao Man was slightly annoyed. Isn't he usually very intelligent? Why did he expose himself? Chie, who had been standing there like a goddess of war, suddenly blushed. She glared at Xiao Man, but did not say a word. Tang Tian did not have any distracting thoughts in his mind. He did not think much about it, it was just an instinctive action. The dazzling shattered light auras lit up the ocean of peace. The beauty of death was extremely tranquil. For some reason, everyone held their breaths, as though they were afraid of breaking the tranquility. General Hua, who was in the air, did not believe them, and sneered. As expected, you will not shed tears until you see the coffin, you are still not giving up, and still want to act mysterious, you are seeking death. Although Xian did not look any different from usual, but Chie could clearly feel his seriousness and desire. Xian and Xiao Man were Chie's left and right arms, and she understood the two of them extremely well. Xiao Man loved to fight, but Xian did not have any interest or passion in fighting. If he could not fight, he would not. If he could spend 10 minutes to settle a battle, he would not spend 20. The torrential sword lights continued for 10 minutes, and when the last sword light shattered, the entire world seemed to have quietened down. Holy flames, he did not sense any holy flame aura. If the other party was the honorable martial banner of knights, it was impossible. The holy flame was the source of power for any honorable martial banner of knights, and in a high-intensity battle, it could not be fake. General Qiu. The leader of the group bowed to Qiu Tianqing. Qiu Tianqing bowed slightly. I never thought that such a small matter would actually alarm General Hua. But this battle concerns my Qiu family's personal grudge. I hope that General will not interfere. In the past, he was defeated and captured by Jie Shangguan, which was why he chose to join her, but he was not willing to do so. Although he admired Jie Shangguan's standard of commanding, it was not enough for him to pledge his loyalty. He just did not want to disappear from the world. His mind was filled with nonsensical thoughts, but his heart was very calm. Xian felt a little sad when he thought about how the Busta woman had seen him like this today. I'm finished. I'm going to be laughed at by this girl. I don't know when I'll be able to regain my impression. The obsession of his former comrade in arms was right in front of him. These fellows had wasted the precious ocean of peace, causing him to want to beat them up. Thank you, miss. Xian thanked Jie solemnly. Who's so free? He was too busy with the matters of this life, and even this battle had not ended yet. That was why it was very common for him to not put in any effort, and compared to Xiao Ran, he was not qualified at all. However, to his surprise, Jie had never been dissatisfied with him because of this. The soldiers of this army were all wearing angry red capes and exquisite and gorgeous golden armors. All of them had cold and indifferent expressions, and with one look, one could tell that they were veterans of hundreds of battles. The general in the lead was tall and sturdy, with a square face and thick eyebrows. His most eye-catching feature was his fiery red hair. He was not lonely at all, and he did not envy others at all. Furthermore, since when did a small family at the bottom of the hierarchy actually have such a powerful army? Who said we were impersonating the banner of knights? Xian bowed to Tang Tian seriously, and spoke respectfully. I ask young master to hold the line for this subordinate. A look of joy flashed past Xiao Ran's eyes, but she snorted. We were just lucky. At the start, he suspected that they were the banner of knights. The enmity between the two parties was clear, and Sophie's intention to use the Qiu family as an example was clear, which caused his thoughts to go into the wrong direction. The sword was filled with intense emotions. It did not belong to him, but to Xian, so Tang Tian felt that it should be given to Xian, and that the undying sword would be happy. Xian leisurely strolled in the air with a look of indifference. We are the Iron Mask army of the Macefield Trading's family. There is no need for me to say more about the enmity between the Qiu family and my Macefield Trading's family. Could it be that sire intends to intervene? Only Qiu Tianqing's pupils constricted. He sensed danger. Only Qiu Tianqing's eyes constricted. He sensed danger. His companions were Bing, Crane, Ling Su, Big Brother Jing Hao, Sai Lei, Pai Pa, Ding Deng. Without saying a word, he tossed the undying sword to Xian. From now on, it is yours. Since when did a small prestigious family dare to challenge a first-rate prestigious family? Qiu Tianqing and General Huo were both startled. Jie glanced at Xiao Ran and giggled, but did not say a word. Qiu Tianqing knew that they were plotting something big. Furthermore, Tang Tian thought about Xian and Bing's relationship, and thought about his identity as a member of the Southern Cross Army, and was enlightened. That's right, the sword contains the aura of Xian's comrades in arms. But upon exchanging blows, he knew that the other party was not the banner of knights. Completely toppled their common sense, it was too absurd. Ah Xian laughed out loud. Just as he was about to express his lofty aspirations, he was interrupted by Xiao Ran. If you want to go, hurry up and go, what are you dawdling for? Jie Shanghai Guan did not say a word, but looked at Ah Xian seriously. General Hu spoke out. The holy bell has sounded, it is time for us to achieve our goals, and the Qiu family is the pillar of our honorable martial continent. How can we be delayed by these thieves and thieves? The majority of Tang Tian's emotions towards the undying sword were because of the obsession. He was extremely excited, honored and respected the seniors, but he knew that the legends were theirs, the beliefs were theirs, the emotions also belonged to them, belonged to the Southern Cross Army. He glanced at Tang Tian, his mouth revealing a sneer. He nodded his head. General, be careful, they are not the banner of knights. Be it being moved, be it sadness, be it yearning, be it hope, they were all for themselves, not to move others, not to let others know, everything was for themselves, for the true desire in their hearts. Ah Xian's body trembled. He grabbed the undying sword in a flurry, even though it was just a moment ago. Everyone could tell that the sword was not ordinary. Tang Tian actually gave him the sword. They had thought of all sorts of possibilities, but they had never thought of the Macefield Trading's family. A low-ranking prestigious family ran to a high-ranking prestigious family and said that they had enmity. The unease in Qiu Tianqing's heart became even more intense. Thinking about that, he felt slightly embarrassed. Who knew that when he requested to fight, Jie would agree so straightforwardly? Ah Xian knew that regardless of the reason, just the understanding was extremely hard to come by. Bang! Jie was decisive and independent, she had her own opinions, and did not care about him at all. In the sky 300 m away from Tang Tian, there was a sudden explosion. The sky was filled with fiery snakes. When the fiery light dissipated, the army appeared out of thin air, revealing their true appearance. It was the first time they had requested to fight. Unknowingly, a spirit general had appeared not far from Tang Tian. His legend was Ursa Major Constellation, Three Spirits City, Southern Alliance, and godlike young lad. Ah Xian looked at Tang Tian deeply. Although Tang Tian's face was covered with a mask, his expression could not be seen, but his eyes were as clear as water. An old monster that had lived for over 10,000 years, with his endless sorrow. If Bing and Screw were to know about it, who knew how they would digest it? Ah Xian's face was brimming with a bright smile, with a hint of cynicism and anticipation, without a trace of sorrow. An army that was like a fiery cloud, blazing down from the horizon. His gratitude was sincere and sincere. We have already endured for 10,000 years, but we still haven't found the answer. Dying is a loss. General Hu's gaze turned cold. He said indifferently, impersonating the banner of knights, your crimes are even more serious. Today, even Temple will not be able to save you. He bowed respectfully to Jie. This subordinate requests to fight. Just at that moment, a chuckle suddenly sounded out in the tense battlefield. The entire place could hear it. Other than Jie and Xiaoman, no one else knew that on the trading ship not far away, there was an old young lad who was sobbing. Even if they knew, they might not be able to understand. 10,000 years was too long, long enough for the world to change, long enough for the people to change, long enough for the oath to be destroyed. Inside the cabin, Ah Xian wiped his tears and stood up, as though nothing had happened. Suddenly, a roar thundered out from afar. In the Saint Continent, you actually dare to violate the Holy Bell's ban and attack the prestigious Qiu family. Why are you acting so sneakily? Why are you not surrendering? With that said, he stood up, wielding the undying sword. He stepped onto the ocean of peace. Jie blinked her eyes. Make a guess. Thinking about Ah Xian's wailing appearance, Jie thought for a moment, then replied without hesitation. All right. How would the busted-chested girl understand such delicate emotions? He muttered in his heart. Aya, how am I going to raise my head in front of her in the future? This is a little troublesome. I want to create my own legend, I want to write down my own beliefs. From the start, he has always been like that. Even though he had inherited many things from the Southern Cross Army, he had never felt that he was living for the sake of reviving the Southern Cross Army. Chia's beautiful eyes flickered with light. She chuckled. I feel that he has handled it well. Since we cannot pretend to be the Banner of Knights, then using the name of Macefield Tradings is the most suitable. Xian's mind truly works fast. Xiao Ran always finds trouble with me, that should be the reason. Unlike him, Xiao Ran was loyal and devoted to Chia. Xiao Ran's face turned cold. She snorted. If you throw our face in front of young master, you can just slit your own throat. The change in aura was extremely subtle. It was obviously a peaceful scene, but for some reason, the sense of danger in Qiu Tianqing's heart did not decrease, but instead became more intense. Qiu Tianqing knew that something was amiss. His gaze was focused and vigilant, but he did not discover anything. The ocean of peace was calm and tranquil, without any ripples. It was like a black mirror. Macefield Tradings? Xian was not afraid. He bowed to Tang Tian. Young master, I wonder if you can hand the sword and the battle to this subordinate? Tang Tian was startled. He never thought that Qiu Tianqing would actually be able to sense that they were not the Banner of Knights. That meant that their plan to disguise as the Banner of Knights and fish in troubled waters had been foiled. Xiao Ran's face was filled with black lines. Xian's laughter stopped abruptly. It was stuck in his throat. Chapter 905. Qiu Tianqing's eyes surged with killing intent. The 5 great generals were powerful, but he never felt that he was inferior to them. For the 5 great generals to have such a reputation, it was all because of Temple. No one knew that the 5 great generals were his imaginary enemies. But it was a pity that the 5 great generals were stationed outside, and he did not have the chance to fight them. The figures seemed to have congealed slightly, and even the red cracks seemed to have become even more vibrant. The powerful voice resonated in the ocean of peace. This is your 10,000 years. His gaze swept across each of the phantoms. Their faces were like fog. He couldn't call out their names, but he knew it was them. The wounds that looked like burning red wires had covered every corner of their bodies, and not a single part of their bodies was intact. Although he did not know which army they came from, but any general was definitely not a small matter, and there was no luck involved. Their position did not represent their strength, but their military rank did. If they can't even handle a low-level prestigious family, how can they be considered as a top-notch prestigious family? What was worse was that it would cause others to think that the Qiu family was just an empty shell, and at such a crucial moment, if everyone lost confidence in the Qiu family, it would undoubtedly be a huge blow to the Qiu family. That familiar aura, that familiar feeling, that familiar shout, that familiar roar, that's right, even after 10,000 years, it is still so familiar. That's right, after 10,000 years, we are still able to meet. Chia and Xiaoman, who were on the trading ship, were also stunned. General, regardless of where or what army it is, they are existences that people look up to. But so what? He soared into the sky. Beside him, 5,000 gray figures soared. The sound of chains being blown by the wind could be heard, but no one could see the chains. But today, he had a general in front of him. After fighting with a nameless person for so long, he had not won, and most of the time, he was suppressed, causing the prideful Qiu Tianqing to feel. But at that moment, the Hu family suddenly came, wanting to help. The soldiers of the Qiu offense army were covered in gray armors, with faint golden lines on them. Their faces were pale white, expressionless, with mist surging in their gray pupils. Each of them exuded a faint chill. Everything within 7 inches of their feet was covered in autumn frost, and their bodies were filled with killing intent. Following the rise of his sword, numerous illusory figures floated out from the ocean of peace. Qiu Tianqing did not speak any nonsense. He activated his qi, causing the Chiu Offense Institute's autumn laws to revolve. Like chains dragging on the ground, deep grooves suddenly appeared on the snow-like surface of the autumn frost, as if something had been dragged on it. Aoxian's hand that was holding the sword was trembling. Countless information flowed into his mind from the undying sword, and countless images flashed past. He finally knew what had happened. He finally knew what had happened in the ocean of peace in the past 10,000 years. He raised the undying sword and let out a long whistle. One careless move and the whole game would be lost. Jie and Xiao Ran were like sisters, and immediately noticed Xiao Ran's gloomy mood. She was extremely intelligent and immediately understood what was going on and intentionally said, "I never thought that Aoxian would be so powerful in the past, I really couldn't tell. I asked him to be your assistant, yet he's still hiding his abilities. Use your Zamadeo to beat him up." Different from the shock of the others, Qiu Tianqing felt the danger even more directly. In the honorable martial continent, only the 5 great generals were generals, no one else had the qualifications. Xiao Ran looked at Aoxian in a daze. She was unable to connect the god of war in front of her with the usual sloppy and unscrupulous uncle that she would beat up. He raised his sword and bellowed, "The spirit of the soldier will not dissipate, the battlefield will last forever, the cross in my heart, the stars will not fall." The misty and illusory figures had dark red cracks all over their bodies. They looked like lines of blood that were extremely ghastly. They were like clay statues that were smashed and then pieced back together. They stood there stupefied and silent. Qiu Tianqing took a deep breath. The expression on his face became extremely sinister. "If I do not tear all of you to shreds today, I am not Qiu Tianqing." The Chiu Offense Institute's mist started to shrink, and the Chiu Offense Institute that was originally shrouded in mist once again revealed its true appearance. When everyone saw the Chiu Offense Institute clearly, they were all shocked. For some reason, Xiao Ran felt a sense of loss. For some reason, the previous Aoxian made her feel more relaxed and at ease. General rank, Xiao Ran had a deeper understanding of it. The Ophiuchus army in the past was the Southern Cross Army's mortal enemy. Xiao Ran's talent was not bad, but in the Ophiuchus army, she was only a captain that could lead 1,000 men. What was the concept of a general? "Come, let us fight." They were like gray clouds that floated towards Aoxian. All along, he had been living in the shadow of the 5 great generals, Chiu Su-hua. But he had never given up. From autumn wind offense to autumn frost cold ground, he had walked step by step to where he was today. Xiao Ran was roused. "That's right, no matter how powerful he is, so what if he's a general? If you don't listen to me, I'll still whip you. No matter how big the world is, young miss and young master are the biggest. Speaking of which, no wonder I feel that he is so easy to whip. A general is truly not ordinary, even the feeling is different. So he is a big figure. The Chiu family has a general, the talented Chiu Su-hua." General Hua, who was watching from afar, revealed a look of shock. "What army is that, to actually have such terrifying might?" He, Qiu Tianqing, had been through hundreds of battles, and was famous. Who did not know of him? Which one of them did not tremble with fear when facing a formidable enemy? Aoxian acted as though he did not see the changes in the Chiu Offense Institute. He gently caressed the sword blade, which was covered with terrifying cracks. The ocean of peace beneath his feet was extremely calm, and the stifling silence was extremely stifling. "Since when can a random person look down on me?" Although he had agreed to the Hua family's suggestion, Qiu Tianqing was still stifled with anger. When he saw that the enemy's general had left, and sent a spirit general to fight him, he could not control his anger. Stepping into the air, everyone's eyes blurred, and Aoxian stepped into the ocean of peace. Aoxian's military rank is actually higher than Uncle Bing. It is too terrifying. He bit his lips tightly and opened his eyes wide, doing his best to prevent his tears from flowing. Millions of voices converged into one, like thunder exploding out. the sky changed color. He thought about the sound of the chains dragging across the ground. In Sin domain, law armors were not rare, on the contrary, it was the most common method to transform laws into armors. But, no matter how common a method was, once one reached the quasi-law domain, it would become extremely rare. The golden patterns on their armors were forged from laws. Ji Zhe's eyes constricted. Law armors. A smile surfaced on his face, and the air around him started to move without any wind. His eyes lit up with a light aura that resembled the radiance of the full moon. The millions of spirits that had been silent the entire time suddenly made the same move. They all stepped on the surface of the sea at the same time. Bang, a loud sound came out, and the surface of the sea caved in by 10 m. The true test is here. All of the subordinates behind him felt their hearts tremble. They knew that their master was truly enraged. Exhilarating felt as though a knife was slicing through him, but he revealed a smile. His entire body emitted an intense cold intent. He looked like a demon that had walked out from hell, but he was smiling. Ji Zhe had never seen so many soldiers in armor at the same time. But his eyes were much sharper than the rest. He could tell that the gray armors were not ordinary, and that there seemed to be a formless connection between them. All of the illusory figures trembled. They all raised their heads and looked at the undying sword. Previously, they were lifeless, but upon hearing those words, it was as though they had regained consciousness. Exhilarating's entire body was covered in energy. His ordinary-looking face emitted a sharp aura that no one could look straight at. His expression was complicated, solemn, excited, emotional, reminiscing. His heart was filled with a myriad of emotions, but all of these emotions flashed past his eyes, and he regained his composure, becoming as calm as water. Tang Tian was dumbstruck. General? Since young, Chiu Su Hua had always been his most direct competitor. And because Chiu Su Hua had defeated him, he obtained the opportunity to go to temple, and thus became one of the 5 great generals. Come out, everyone! His eyes were red, his expression solemn, his sword pointed to the sky. His expression was devout and disdainful, sincere and arrogant. He spoke word by word, like a heavy hammer striking the sky. It was the first time the Chiu offense army had taken the initiative to attack. The intense desire to fight made Chiu Tianqing not willing to defend. Tang Tian was extremely familiar with the military ranks of the Southern Cross Army, but, General, Tang Tian was shocked. A general was a military rank just below a marshal, and what was even more terrifying was the command of a general. A command of 200,000 men was enough to launch a large-scale battle. Xiao Man hugged her Zanbato happily, the haze on her face swept away. The illusory figures stood straight like spears, their arms were like a forest. They bowed to Exhilarating and replied, "Yes, Southern Cross Army General. Exhilarating is actually a general." The fighting intent in his heart was unprecedentedly intense. To be able to fight against a general-level opponent, it was a rare opportunity. The rage in Chiu Tianqing's heart soared. Chiu Tianqing's expression was calm. He knew that it was a knot in his heart, and had been haunting him for the past few years like a nightmare. If he could not break it, his future would be difficult to improve. And as long as he broke it, his future would be limitless. But after thinking about it, for the sake of the plan, Chiu Tianqing suppressed the rage in his heart, and accepted the Hua family's suggestion. He had to admit, at the moment, dealing with temple was the most important matter. Wartime Regulation 9, General Exhilarating of the army has full authority to take over the entire army. All divisions of the army are to await orders. Chiu Tianqing did not want the Hua family's help at all. He had the confidence to destroy the despicable enemies. I can't even deal with a group of nameless people, and still need the help of the Hua family. How can that be? If it was truly the Macefield Trading's family, then it would be a huge loss of face. It could be said that other than the commander, he was the second in command, and his authority was even higher than the vice commander, because the vice commander was usually in charge of logistics. Since all of you are not willing to rest in peace, then let us fight together. General Hua's face changed. The previously lifeless illusory figures suddenly released a terrifying aura, as though they were alive. Chapter 906. When the gray shackles dropped down, Ji Zhe did not understand. But when the gray shackles transformed into a cage, with the appearance of the golden lines, he immediately understood, and was overwhelmed with shock. Thus in everyone's eyes, the formation on the ocean of peace was like neatly arranged wooden blocks. Following Xian's instructions, it changed into a flowing rhythm. Far away, Bing, who was burying his head in front of the table, suddenly raised his head, his eyes revealing joy and disbelief. Inside the Honorable Marshal's roar, Screw, who was resting, suddenly opened his eyes. His dazed eyes suddenly became clear. In the savage continent, the commander who was fighting with Mu Zhixia's army suddenly trembled and raised his head. The fatigue on his face was swept away. His eyes were so sharp that they could pierce through the sky. He looked ahead and said, "Blow the horn." Qiu Tianqing's mouth revealed a sneer. When the horn was blown, the entire ocean of peace surged with a black light aura. The black light aura permeated into the illusory soldiers. And behind the horn bearer, the illusory soldiers started to line up. As expected of a general-rank spirit general. So what if they are legendary armies? No matter how powerful they were when they were alive, they have been dead for so long, how much of their original killing intent can they retain? He raised his head to look at the sky, a smile surfaced on his face, and then he did something that no one expected. The ocean of peace was no longer a place of rest, but a battlefield. Xian's sleeves fluttered. He stood upright with his sword in front of him. It was as though he had returned to the era of war, as though he could see the smoke of war. Left 3rd unit, take 10 steps forward. Sigh, General Hua sucked in a breath of cold air. For a military general who was familiar with the art of war, he knew very well what this meant. Xian did not even look at the densely packed gray shackles that were quickly approaching him. He calmly adjusted his formation. His eyes suddenly lit up, and he could not help but exclaim out. The gray shackles went around the invisible wall. They were like a fence, surrounding Xian and his formation in the middle, while the other end of the shackles entered the ocean of peace. Tang Tian looked at General Hua, seeing the hesitation in the other party's eyes. He retracted his gaze. If the enemy made a move, he would react immediately. He had never heard of the Hua family, but he did not care, thinking that they should be similar to the Qiu family. Although he was surprised, he was not afraid. The more battles one experienced, the more condensed their killing intent would be. The killing intent that these phantoms emitted was something that Qiu Tianqing had never seen before in other armies. This was an army that had gone through a chaotic world, and only the legendary armies in the chaotic world could possess such a congealed killing intent. No one knew about these changes. At this moment, everyone's gazes were attracted to the battlefield. Just as Ji Zhe was about to rush over, he caught a glimpse of Tang Tian from the corner of his eye. He stopped himself. This is the Southern Cross Army's foundation was truly unfathomable. The soldiers of the Qiu Offense Army opened up their arms, the gold lines on their bodies lit up. Like snakes, they swam along their bodies to their arms, and when they swam to their palms suddenly lit up with a gray light aura. 20 illusory figures flew out, and their low and deep horns resonated throughout the ocean of peace. For example, the mysterious Bing of the Southern Alliance was an outstanding commander. But now, he wanted to see how Xian fought. At this moment, Xian was exuding an unparalleled aura. Among the countless figures, he was extremely eye-catching, shining with boundless radiance. In the air, Qiu Tianqing's eyes flashed with a trace of coldness. He ordered, "Battle formation, clear autumn." The sound of chains moving in the sky converged into one, causing everyone's hearts to tremble. 10,000 gray chains descended from the sky, like 10,000 frantically growing gray vines. The scene was undoubtedly extremely oppressive. No one had ever seen such a spectacular and strange scene before, causing their scalps to go numb. This is the true killing technique. Is there something that I can't see? Damn it. Second to the right, float 7m higher. Aexian floated at the highest point, the position of the sword tip. More accurately speaking, they were all attracted to Aexian. Spirit generals were rare in the sacred Saint Galaxy, but they were in the Saint Continent, and all of them were top-notch families, which family did not have a spirit general, thus they were naturally knowledgeable. Ordinary spirit generals were unable to attract their attention, but they knew how powerful top-notch spirit generals were. Compared to General Hua's shock, Qiu Tianqing was much calmer. It was not that his mental state was better than General Hua, but because he was in a state of battle, his mental state was more focused, and did not have as many distracting thoughts. The orderly formation was extremely stern, the killing intent seemed to have materialized and flowed wantonly. The ocean of peace beneath their feet seemed to have been frozen by the killing intent, causing the air above the ocean of peace to immediately slow down. General Hua's mouth was wide open as he stared blankly at the Qiu offense army in the sky. Qiu Tianqing is actually so powerful? He did not dare believe his own eyes. The top-notch prestigious families were all extremely rich, and had a few military generals with the standard of famed generals, so there was nothing to fuss about. Traces of mist permeated out from the chains, and the withering aura started to spread out. Qiu Tianqing was extremely pleased. The outcome had been decided, and the enemy had no chance of turning the tables. For example, Sophie, who was a spirit general and commanded the banner of knights. The illusory soldiers' footsteps were silent, but the dense footsteps sounded out in everyone's hearts. La Domaine. The 10,000 chains stretched taut like spears, gold lines appeared on the chains, forming a gigantic cage. The reason why the Qiu family was able to do well in the circle was because of Qiu Suhua's existence. Any great general was a powerful strategical grade existence. He suppressed his urge, and his gaze landed back on the ocean of peace. Autumn La Domaine. Boss does not seem to be worried at all. His heart was moved. With Boss's eyesight, whatever I can see, Boss will definitely be able to see. But why isn't Boss anxious at all? The entire formation was like a vertical sword, the illusory soldiers stacked on top of each other, forming a thick and sturdy sword body. It was unknown how many times they had sighed, but at that moment, everyone had the same thought. Compared to the tens of thousands of chains descending from the sky, Aexian's side was extremely calm. But, with his smooth and flowing orders, the strict formation quickly changed. Every order would cause a change in the formation. The illusory soldiers' movements were simple and concise. Just like Aexian's orders, they were direct and efficient without any sloppiness. Qiu Tianqing's face changed. When Aexian made his move, he did not feel anything. But now, the killing intent that these illusory soldiers were emitting made his heart palpitate. They are true elites that have been through hundreds of battles. Even the soldiers under me do not have such terrifying killing intent. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. No one could understand it. No one had ever set up such a strange battle formation before. It had to be known that there were many things to pay attention to in a formation, and it was not just a random formation. But everyone knew that it was impossible for him to make any preparations. Qiu Tianqing, who dared to challenge the 5 great generals, how could he be afraid of the remnant spirits of the legendary army that had died many years ago? Their footsteps were short and concentrated, and in a few seconds, they were all in formation. The gray chains descended from the sky above the formation, but there seemed to be an invisible wall that blocked the gray chains. Inside the chains, Aexian had already completed his arrangements, causing everyone's eyes to tremble. They had never heard of a spirit general with the rank of general. Even the mysterious Bing of the Southern Alliance was definitely not a general. To these prestigious families, although a powerful spirit general like Sophie was good, but it was not as attractive as a commander-type spirit general. The Chiu family is so powerful? Time was merciless, the world was cruel, it could destroy their bodies and erase their memories, but the faith that was deeply imprinted in their souls would never be erased. After 10,000 years, they were still so passionate, how could people not feel respect for them? Middle 3 divisions, float 15 m. It's finally done. General Hua could also see it. He tried his best to recall, which legendary army in history has a general called Xin? What a strange formation! Ji Zhe, who was observing Tang Tian in the dark, suddenly caught a flash of excitement in Tang Tian's eyes, and immediately realized that he had missed something. Every single palm had a gray chain extending out, they were like frantically growing gray vines that continued to extend and grow. But what Tang Tian felt was powerful was not that, but the Southern Cross Army's spirit, brand and faith. Tang Tian had seen many powerhouses with deep foundations, for example Temple. But the Southern Cross Army's spirit, energy and spirit was something that no other family had. It was different from time laws. The aging of autumn laws was not caused by the flow of time, but directly caused one's life to enter the later stages, and that was the most terrifying aspect. Now that General Hua saw Chiu Tianqing, who was not inferior to Chiu Su Hua, how could he not be dumbstruck? That is completely illogical. For such a powerful spirit general to appear in front of them, how could they not be attracted to him? They were also filled with curiosity. How strong will a general-grade spirit general be? Chiu Tianqing's eyes flashed with a look of joy. He bellowed, "Open!" But no matter how powerful the Chiu family is, they already have Chiu Su Hua. No matter how high the standards of a top-notch prestigious family were, the 5 great generals were definitely top-notch, and were also what every family desired. The chains were already extremely close to the law domain. That feeling was as though no matter how much time had passed, when the Southern Cross Army's battle horn was blown, countless figures would crawl out from the ashes of history and gather under the banner of the past. Here and there arched up a little, there lowered a little, the formation in Xion's hands was constantly changing. Seeing that the figures were suddenly filled with vigor, Tang Tian felt that something was amiss. That should be their innate strength. Xion's first sentence was something that Tang Tian had heard before. At that time, when Tang Yi came out from the spirit chamber, he had shouted out those words. In this region, the autumn laws were greatly strengthened, and any life forms would quickly wither and die. If a living person was inside, they would age in an extremely short period of time. He was methodical, his expression was calm, his words were clear and forceful, direct and efficient, without any sloppiness. And what was surprising was that his orders were like flowing water, without any hesitation, as though he had long thought of a plan and was just repeating it. Chapter 907. That was the current situation. After understanding this, he made up his mind. Rumbling sounds rang out incessantly. In the depths of the sea, it sounded like mountains were collapsing and the earth was cracking. The cold aura enveloped the ocean of peace. The autumn frost appeared once again. This time it was even thicker than before. The thick autumn frost extended along the chains, causing the black color to retreat. The white autumn frost was like demonic moss growing on the surface of their bodies. Their vitality was withering at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a short while, 1/3 of their bodies were covered in autumn frost. When their bodies were completely covered in autumn frost, their lives had come to an end. Wind, coat and frost, autumn in my heart, how do I attract it? 3 blood and 3 withering, the autumn wind, the autumn rain, and the autumn frost. All living things are bleak and desolate, born but not flourishing, time passes early, never to return. He was stunned for a moment. His heart skipped a beat. Could it be Chiu Tianqing's autumn laws were truly not to be underestimated, especially with his high realm? It was something that no one could defend against. But if Chiu Tianqing had lived in the Sin domain before, he would definitely know that there were differences between different laws. Ji sucked in a breath of cold air from the bottom of his heart. This was the first time he had seen a law domain. Although it was not a complete law domain, it was infinitely close to a law domain, or it could be said that it already had many of the characteristics of a law domain. For example, the autumn frost was the result of the autumn law's corrosion. Any energy barrier in the sacred region was like air in front of it. Its corrosion was not on the energy level, which was the most terrifying part of it. The pitch-black seawater flowed past the ankles of the illusory soldier at the bottom. The red cracks on the soldier's body suddenly lit up. The seawater covered their calves, thighs, and waist. The pale and cold autumn frost was instantly melted by the seawater. A black figure walked out from the palace. This black figure was actually formed from the seawater of the Ocean of Peace. This black waterman had faint red cracks all over his body, as though they were blood scars. He flew to the middle of the soldiers and with a pious expression, he chanted in a low voice, "The Chiu clan of the sacred region has existed for 10,000 years, passing down the torch, only I, Chiu." This was the legendary natural anomaly. Legend has it that when something extraordinary was born and collided, there would be a phenomenon. The so-called phenomenon was actually the resonance between the laws. However, it was extremely difficult to resonate with the laws of heaven and earth. In the comparatively easier Sin Domain Palace, Gu Shui had once gained enlightenment and caused a rainbow to appear in the sky. But in the sacred Saint Galaxy where energy was abundant, the difficulty of resonating with the laws of heaven and earth was extremely high, and it was many times higher than in the Sin Domain, thus the phenomenon became a legend. His reputation was not inferior to Chiu Tianqing, but he was filled with admiration for Chiu Tianqing. The Chiu family is truly heaven-defying. They produced Chiu Suhua, and now they actually produced Chiu Tianqing. When the other soldiers saw this, they bit their tongues in unison and spat out a mouthful of blood essence onto their own chains. As expected, the spread of the black color was greatly reduced. Sensing that their autumn laws were decreasing at an alarming rate, the formation's operations became extremely sluggish. Chiu Tianqing's face changed. How is this possible? The black seawater flowed along the chains, causing Chiu Tianqing to feel an immense pressure. The autumn law melted like snow, causing him to feel fear. At the moment, the one with the greatest pressure was undoubtedly Chiu Tianqing. Chiu Shuang, who was initially surging with aura, suddenly met with an invisible resistance. His expression changed. The autumn law had always been unstoppable, even energy barriers were unable to block it. What was this invisible resistance? Everyone's eyes were once again fixated on it. After following Ji and the rest for a period of time, Xian's understanding of laws had become much deeper. He had comprehended it in the past, but he had never managed to break through it, and with just a few pointers from Ji and the rest, many things became clear. Tang Tian praised his own foresight while opening his eyes wide. He was also filled with curiosity. After all, he did not bring out the undying sword, and it was such a shocking scene. What exactly is the black seawater? A natural phenomenon. Just at that moment, the calm ocean of peace suddenly underwent a change. The army immediately realized the profoundness of the ocean of death, and found countless of treasures and living souls to throw into the ocean of death, and constructed a resting souls palace in the eye of the ocean, called the Life Palace. Then, in other areas of the ocean of death, they constructed 12 side palaces, called the Death Palaces, to guard the ocean of death. Every Death Palace and Life Palace were connected by chains, with the nameplates of the soldiers who had sacrificed themselves. Clear Autumn Law was already extremely close to a law domain, and anything higher than it could only be a law domain. A loud sound came out and countless black waves suddenly exploded. Xian remained indifferent, as though he did not see anything. Life from death, withered bones give birth to lotuses. The aura of Clear Autumn Lock was not strong, but the killing intent was like a mist, completely enveloping the ocean of peace, and Xian could not avoid it. In a battle between armies, it was a taboo to have no space, as the lack of space often meant that both parties had to fight to the death. Initially, he had some expectations for the spirit general called Exhilarating, as the rank of general gave him too much space to imagine. But when he saw Exhilarating throw the undying sword into the ocean of peace, he was greatly disappointed. Inside the formation, the autumn law pervaded out, the gray mist quietly permeated into Exhilarating and the illusory soldiers' bodies, causing white autumn frost to grow on their bodies. Withering, decaying, withering aura pervaded out from their bodies, making them look like a forest in autumn. Every sentence he chanted would cause the soldiers around him to emit a white mist, and in the blink of the eye, the white mist enveloped the entire Chiu offense army. His voice was not loud, but every sentence he chanted would cause him to become even whiter, and his aura to increase. The terrifying aura instantly caused Chiu Tianqing's fighting intent to crumble. No one knew what the ocean of peace was, and no one knew where it came from. They had all neglected the ocean of peace, the black and unfathomably deep ocean. Others might neglect the might of the ocean of peace, but Exhilarating would not, because he had personally participated in it in the past. The Southern Cross Army was not proficient in laws, but they knew how miraculous it was to be reborn from death. They did not think of changing it, but continued to nourish it, and through the nurturing of time, it finally forged its supreme might. The ocean of peace seemed to have come alive, the pitch-black seawater extended along the chains, and wherever it passed, the bright gold patterns on the chains would immediately dim down, and the gray chains would be dyed black, making it look extremely strange. From the start, he had never planned to use the remnant spirits of the undying sword to fight to the death. He could not bear to do so. Although the remnant spirits were only left with their obsession, but because of that, he could not bear to do so. Their obsession was extremely deep, but it was still an obsession, and once it was damaged, they would completely disappear from the world, leaving nothing behind. He laughed at himself. That is normal. Macefield Tradings is just a small family. How can they have a true general spirit general? Bang! General Hua's expression became sluggish. He watched as the black seawater extended along the gray chains. He felt extremely uncomfortable. Just now, the 10,000 chains dropped down and grew frantically like vines. But now, the black seawater was also like vines, growing along the gray chains. Alright, so be it, at least I can still live. Everyone's face revealed looks of shock. The chains erupted with light auras. Exhilarating's actions were unexpected and extremely simple. He released the undying sword in his hand. The undying sword fell into the ocean of peace, but did not cause any ripples. The Chiu offense army's soldiers all had blood mist erupt from their feet, hearts and eyebrows. As soon as the blood mist left their bodies, it turned white at a visible speed. Before it dissipated, the originally bright red blood mist had turned into a white mist, and fused with the white mist in the air. Before anyone could react, another black waterman walked out, with the same faint traces of blood. Everyone held their breaths and opened their eyes wide, afraid of missing out on any details. Damn it! He could not bear to do it. This. The ocean of peace that continued to rise was like a terrifying and greedy beast, devouring everything it could. The ocean of peace was something that the Southern Cross Army had spent countless of time to create. It used to be a dead sea that was filled with death aura, and anyone who went near it would be corroded by the death aura. After that, the commander realized that the death aura was a law of death, and to the living, it was a poison, but to the dead, it was a paradise. Could it be that the ocean of peace is a law domain? Jizé was dumbstruck. Above the raging Black Sea, a regiment of white mist that resembled a cloud dropped down 10,000 chains. Exhilarating did not raise his head to look at the sky. His gaze never left the ocean of peace beneath his feet. When he saw the bronze palace, he muttered, "Palace of Peace. I am truly sorry." General Hua shook his head. Although Chiu Tianqing's clear autumn lock was not a true law domain, but it was extremely close, and he could not think of any methods to escape. Even if he was trapped inside, he would not be able to escape even if he had wings. He looked at Qiu Tianqing, his heart filled with emotions. General Hua's expression changed. He was overwhelmed with shock. He never thought that the battle would be so intense. The strength of both parties had far exceeded his expectations. All sorts of methods were unleashed, and for a moment it was a huge blow to him. The white mist seeped into the chains, causing the 10,000 chains to revolve. Their clanking sounds resonated through the sky, like a torrent crashing down. The sound even overshadowed the ocean of peace. The battle formation was like a forest. The atmosphere was extremely tense. When he saw that there were no bronze plates on the red ropes, but emptiness, his face revealed a smile. Just at that moment, the doors of the bronze palace opened. The black seawater not only extended along the gray chains, the entire surface of the sea was rising, as though there was a monster awakening in the bottomless sea. His gaze landed on the surface of the sea that was continuously rising. The surging seawater was like a terrifying monster that was frantically devouring the illusory soldiers. But the illusory soldiers above did not move at all, as though they were ignoring the rising seawater. Qiu Tianqing's clear autumn lock was firmly in control of the situation. Xin was unable to dodge, and Qiu Tianqing's army was similarly unable to move. The strongest, most complicated, and most vast three fundamental laws were the three main pillars of the law system, and they were time, space, and life and death. One by one, the black watermen walked out of the bronze palace like a tide. What was surprising was that Xin and the rest did not make any movements to dodge. The illusory soldiers maintained their positions and movements without moving. Ji Zhe's gaze was fixated on the ocean of peace. Only then did he realize that he had neglected the ocean of peace. He frowned, then relaxed, feeling that his mind was in a mess. What is the black seawater? A type of energy? No, no energy can defeat the autumn laws so easily. Laws? Ji Zhe shook his head as well. The clash between laws would definitely not be so silent, unless there was a huge disparity between the two parties. A majestic and ancient bronze palace gradually surfaced from the water. The bronze palace's doors were tightly shut, with 4 black stars engraved on it, forming an irregular cross. On the 4 walls, the words, "Do not bless eternal peace," were engraved. 12 red ropes, one end was tied to the roof of the palace, while the other end was inserted deep into the ocean of peace. It was stretched taut. Inside the bronze palace, there seemed to be an endless number of black watermen, all of them surging out. The black watermen who came out did not say a word. They walked to Xion's side and stood there solemnly. Tang Tian felt that the bronze palace was familiar, as though he had seen it somewhere before. After a while, he smacked his head. Isn't this the Southern Cross Army Spirit Hall? Qiu Tianqing's face was pale, but his aura was that of a god. But General Hua knew that Qiu Tianqing was truly risking his life. Even if they won, he and the Qiu offense army would be greatly injured. They are formed by the illusory soldiers from before. What goes around comes around. The power of the ocean of peace itself was extremely terrifying. As long as they activated the power of the ocean of peace, it would be enough. At such a crucial time, it was not a good sign for their side to suffer a loss. But at such a time, even if he was beaten to death, he would not make a move. He was not sure if Qiu Tianqing was rational, but the Macefield Trading's family was also extremely sinister. For some reason, he, who was not afraid of anything, felt an indescribable reverence and fear towards the Macefield Trading's family. Chi. Sacrifice? Qiu Tianqing bit the tip of his tongue. The taste of blood permeated his mouth, and the intense pain caused him to sober up. A trace of lingering fear surfaced in his heart. He had been through hundreds of battles, and knew that he had to be even more resolute at such a time. Even a trace of hesitation or fear would cause them to die a tragic death. It was a situation of survival in the midst of death, and life could only be obtained through death. His heart was still filled with doubts, but the phenomenon in the sky had scared his soul out of his body, causing his face to turn as white as paper. Ever since the start of the battle, it was the first time he had thoughts of retreating. Even the legendary phenomenon has appeared. What the hell is in front of me? The sky suddenly darkened, black clouds converged from all directions. The previously clear and boundless sky had turned into a dark night in the blink of an eye. Silver lightning surged through the thick layers of clouds, and the oppressive sound of thunder sounded out like a heavy drum in everyone's hearts. Qiu Tianqing knew that he had no path of retreat. He roared and spat out a mouthful of blood. When the blood sprayed onto the chains, it quickly seeped into the chains and disappeared. The light aura of the chains erupted, and the black aura that was spreading from the other end of the chains was stopped. General Hu felt that he did not understand. That's right, there were many things that he did not understand. When the last black water person walked out of the bronze palace, the palace doors closed and sank back into the ocean of peace. And the most miraculous thing was that deep in the ocean of death, where the death chi was the densest, there was an ocean eye that was nurturing an astonishing amount of life. When he received the undying sword, he gained enlightenment. The ocean of peace had completely fused with the 13 palaces and the remnant spirits of the armies, and that was why the ocean of peace was inside the undying sword. Rumble. Unfortunately, it is not the banner of knights, he muttered in his heart. If it was the banner of knights, it would be perfect. The banner of knights was their main goal. They could achieve their goal, and at the same time they could whittle down the strength of the Qiu family, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. This is? Everyone's eyes flashed with suspicion. Qiu Tianqing's clear autumn lock had firmly controlled the situation, and everyone was waiting for Xian to use some shocking method to turn the tables. This young man truly has good foresight. Qiu Tianqing was chanting in the air. This was the ocean of peace that the Southern Cross Army had spent all their efforts to create, and after 10,000 years of nurturing, it had completely transformed. Why was his autumn hair so weak? They didn't have a physical body, but they would also completely dissipate. At that time, no trace would be left. They were a bunch of legends. More and more black water people gathered around Xian. They lined up neatly and silently. At this moment, only Xian was left on the surface of the sea. All the illusory soldiers had been submerged by the seawater. Xian did not care about Autumn Frost, who had reappeared. He looked at the sea beneath his feet with a look of anticipation. He had another method, which was the ocean of peace. The black seawater originally only had death energy, and only the ocean eye had vitality. However, after 10,000 years of nourishment, those precious treasures had long been consumed by the Dead Sea. With the transformation of the Palace of Peace, the life and death chi in the Ocean of Peace were no longer as distinct as they were in the past, but were gradually merging into one. In the other cities of Saint Continent, there were people flying into the sky, their faces filled with shock as they looked towards the direction of the Qiu Offense Institute. They could sense that the energy around them had become abnormal. Although they did not know what was happening, but the phenomenon in the sky was definitely something powerful. It was the gap of laws that could not be crossed. As expected, the autumn law chains met the seawater that contained the life and death laws, and were immediately corroded. Because they did not know what the ocean of peace was. In his heart, he only felt excitement and anticipation, regardless of what kind of scene it was. The undying sword was worthy of it. What method is this? The seawater was actually able to corrode the chains. General Hu was shocked. But even Tang Tian was dumbstruck. The ocean of peace that did not have any reaction in his hands was actually able to cause such a phenomenon in Xian's hands. It was truly too powerful. Ji was dumbstruck. What the hell is that black water? The enemy's formation seemed to be a perfect imitation of a law domain. The gold patterns on the gray chains were autumn laws, but in front of the black water, they were unable to resist at all. A loud sound came out from the depths of the ocean of peace. The surface of the sea suddenly started to churn violently, the winds howled, as though countless evil dragons were stirring up waves. Aoxian could guess everyone's expression, and a faint smile surfaced on his face. How can we guess it? Aoxian, who was standing on the surface of the sea, did not move. His eyes erupted with excitement, and he bellowed, "Come out!" If Aoxian was able to break out of Clear Autumn Lock, Qiu Tianqing and his army would definitely be heavily injured. And if Aoxian was unable to break out of Clear Autumn Lock, there would only be one result for him, and that was to die in the formation. Chapter 908. Bang! The entire battlefield was silent. Everyone was shocked by the attack just now. Melissa asked carefully, "Master, did you meet with some trouble?" Her heart continued to sink. Aoxian's entire body trembled, his face turned pale white, and he did not even dare to struggle. This dual violent lady is capable of anything. Dual violent lady Aoxian had secretly given Xiao Ran a nickname, meaning that she was a violent and explosive woman. At times, it is not a good thing to give a nickname too accurately. 8 moves, the 8 great killing techniques of the Southern Cross Army in the past. How many people still remember them? It was an unfamiliar face. Melissa had never seen him before, as the Hua family and Macefield Tradings did not have any interactions in the past. But Melissa was no longer the Amon of the past. The Hua family man was tall and straight, with an imposing appearance. One look and anyone could tell that he was not an ordinary disciple of the Hua family. He suddenly took a step in the air, and his figure suddenly soared by a few meters, and stood above the formation. Aoxian returned to the trading ship, and upon seeing Xiao Ran's sluggish face, he immediately became excited, and his nose pointed upwards. "Ha ha, are you shocked, are you stunned, are you starting to worship me? Oh my, I told you that I was also very fierce in the past. Come, let us have an exchange of flesh and soul." The black water soldiers in front of him slowly sank into the ocean of peace. The seawater slowly submerged them, but they maintained their saluting posture and did not move, all the way until they were completely submerged. He muttered lightly, a look of reminiscence flashing past his eyes. How many people can remember those 4 sentences, and how many people can remember the meaning behind those 4 sentences? General Hoare regained his vision. He stared at the black hole in the sky in shock. That is a crack formed from the shattering of space. His face twitched, his fingers trembled. Who exactly is he? How can he shatter space with one strike? He opened up his arms and placed them in front of his chest, forming a perfect circle. The black hole seemed to be connected to the void. It was bottomless, and a gloomy and cold aura floated out from the hole. The surroundings of the hole were covered with spiderweb-like black cracks. In the Honorable Marshall Continent there were 5 top-grade prestigious families: the Croft family, Hua family, Chiu family, Mo family, and Vicari. The Hua family and the Chiu family were both top-notch families. They had just suffered a setback at the hands of the Chiu family, and now another top-notch family had come knocking on their door. How could they not be shocked? Aoxian's legs were flailing about in the air, with a hand grabbing onto his neck. Xiao Man spoke fiercely. "You forgot about the pain after the scar healed? But, so what? He would still do the same, no matter how stupid he was. How great of a setback was it for these people to lose their composure like this?" Tang Tian had seen Uncle Bing's technique of controlling aura, and was shocked at that time, but compared to Aoxian today, it paled in comparison. Tang Tian's reaction was the fastest, and he fled as soon as he could. Everyone looked at Aoxian with a little more respect. Ji Zhe's legs kept trembling. These days, he had hung out with Aoxian for a long time, mocking and ridiculing him. God, why did you have to make such a joke? Why is my heart beating so fast? Why am I shaking so much? Master Aoxian, can we start over? The leader was furious and created his own green-red cross sign. Seems like it will definitely be a crushing defeat, Melissa thought. A painful defeat would usually leave a shadow in one's heart. But although she was worried, she still believed in Tang Tian and the rest's ability to recover. She was also encouraging herself, at such a time she had to be even more resolute, and not waver. As though they had a telepathic connection, Qiu Tianqing, who was in the sky, roared at the same time. Kill! Tang Tian thought that Qiu Tianqing had actually seen through their disguise, and their plans had all gone down the drain. Bang! Xian smashed onto the deck fiercely, countless of stars dancing in front of him. He laid on the ground in a daze. Seems like the script isn't right. Shouldn't the cows be pouncing on me with looks of worship? Then I will be buried. Oh my, the legendary feeling of suffocation. The dazzling silver light devoured everything, causing the entire world to be covered in white. No matter how good one's eyesight was, they were unable to see anything. Even their skin that was exposed to the air felt as though it was being pierced by needles. The terrifying shock wave wreaked havoc, causing General Hua, who was close to it, to be unable to react in time, as though he was smashed by an iron wall. He was flung out over 30 m before he stabilized himself. Can we talk things out? Xiao Man sneered. Hee, if you don't fight for 3 days, you will tear the tiles off the roof. If not for the fact that you did not embarrass us in front of the young master, I will make sure that you shrink back a bit. Xian maintained his salute and did not move. Xian shook his head. The Qiu offense army had it easy. If not for him reuniting with his comrades, he would not even bother to use it. Xian raised his head. The surging airflow caused his hair to become messy, but he did not blink at all. The stars in the formation below flew towards Xian. Melissa felt fear from the bottom of her heart. A bone-chilling cold enveloped her entire body. She was extremely clear on how strong Ji and the rest were. But what truly made the old man decide to gamble was the unique aura that Ji and the rest had. Tens of thousands of thick and solid chains intertwined together, covering the sky in Xian's eyes. The air trembled. Xian, who was lying down, could feel his body tensing up, and was unable to escape. After experiencing the cruelest battles, he had never felt fear. He opened his eyes with all his might. Although he could not see anything, the dazzling silver light caused his face to turn white. He was still all right, although his blood was churning, but he was not injured. The soldiers under him were not as fortunate. They were scattered and wailing on the ground. That's right, to be able to meet everyone, I am truly fortunate. He knew that he was not fighting alone, and knew that everyone in the past had never forgotten the oath they made. In truth, he also knew that there was no meaning in struggling. It was as though the Southern Cross Army had already been destroyed, and even if they were to be rebuilt again, it would no longer be the army of the past. I can't dodge? Then let's meet force with force. His vision suddenly darkened, as a black figure that resembled a mountain rapidly enlarged in his eyes. All of the soldiers in the formation below had their fingers blossoming like flowers, and in their palms a light aura flashed. The black ocean of peace was like a deep and unfathomable curtain of night, suddenly lighting up with light auras, as though the sky was filled with stars. Buzz, countless of light auras flew up from below and struck his body. His body did not tremble at all. It was as though he was lying on the surface of the ocean, as though his entire being was embedded in a bright halo. His entire body was covered in dazzling light auras. Xiao Man's originally sluggish face quickly turned red. Following that, a regiment of flames ignited in her eyes. The zanbato in her hand brought forth the sound of the wind. Bang! The thick blade accurately struck Xian's face like a fly swatter. Xian's mouth revealed a faint smile. He had an expression of enjoyment. It's a familiar feeling. The tens of thousands of chains that hung down from the clouds were like 10,000 gigantic pythons dancing. They hissed and pounced towards Xian. The tens of thousands of terrifying chains danced, covering the sky like MT tie pressing down, causing people to be unable to dodge, causing their hearts to be filled with despair. Countless white mist pervaded the air. the autumn frost scattered down like snow. The reunion of comrades after 10,000 years is a happy thing. Knowing that my former comrades are the same as me, doing stupid and meaningless things, makes me happy. That's us, we are like that, so stupid we are never different from others. The dazzling light auras illuminated Xian's face. He had a calm expression, as though he was reminiscing, sighing and reminiscing. Star Cannon, I never thought that after so many years, I would not be rusty at all. The opponent's autumn laws were unprecedentedly powerful, all the other laws in the surrounding space were pushed out by it. Tang Tian laid on the rattan chair, enjoying the fruits that Chia fed him, watching the pitiful Xian being ordered around by Xiao Man, where was the elegance of a general, thinking about Xian's heroic bearing that looked down on the world, and then looking at his current submissive state. All sorts of emotions converged into one sentence in Tang Tian's mind: Chia is still the best. Tang Tian did not expect her to ask such a question. He thought for a moment and said, "It's just a small problem." The once fierce, the once flamboyant, the once bloodied and fiery, had flown for over 10,000 years, stepping on the void. The spatial cracks gradually disappeared, every spatial dimension had the ability to regenerate itself, and once a spatial dimension lost its ability to regenerate, it meant that the spatial dimension would gradually lose control and be close to destruction. Xian's attack had brought a huge shock to Tang Tian. Xian's gaze swept across his comrades. They were only left with a strand of obsession, and even though he had the ocean of pieces seawater to reconstruct their bodies, they still did not have any memories or intelligence. If not for the ocean of pieces seawater containing life and death, as well as their aura, they would not even be able to reconstruct their bodies. Xian's roar was like an explosion of thunder. A surging pillar of light surged out from the rings on his arms. Melissa's heart jumped. She knew that in the eyes of her master, no matter how big a problem was, it was just a small problem, and her heart immediately jumped to her throat. Xian was already satisfied. Ji and the rest were not as lucky as Tang Tian, and were even more affected by the explosion. All of them were in a sorry state, their hair was disheveled, but luckily they were strong, although they looked to be in a sorry state, but no one was injured. Tang Tian's heart was filled with sympathy, and decided to find a chance to ridicule Uncle Bing when they return. Uncle Bing is truly pitiful. The Hua family is here. For such a grand occasion, only by winning would they not let it down. Xian flew out like a sandbag, bang bang bang. He was like a meatball bouncing around inside the trading ship. Melissa ordered Wiley to quickly send the news to Tang Tian, and at the same time, she decided to take the initiative to meet the Hua family. Of course, it was just a shock in terms of power, as Tang Tian knew that such a technique was not suitable for him. Star Cannon's essence was actually a type of control aura. It was a technique unique to military generals, and others could not learn it. The white light had not dissipated, and Tang Tian could not see clearly. His awakened god armor that was effective every time was not of much use at the moment. He thought that the laws in the region were in chaos. Tang Tian had never seen such a chaotic scene before, and he was even worried that the space would collapse. Regardless, she was the owner of Macefield Tradings, and there was no reason for her to retreat. The smile on Xian's face suddenly disappeared. A sharp and ferocious aura suddenly erupted from his body, as though an ancient dragon had awoken from its slumber. A blazing light pillar struck the chains that were descending from the sky. What was even funnier was that the commander did not learn a technique that no one had thought of: cross scythe. Out of the 8 major killing techniques, the cross scythe was publicly acknowledged to be the easiest killing technique, and was also the killing technique with the most number of people learning it. But for some reason, the commander was unable to learn it. The battlefield is eternal, we will forever fight side by side. Ji felt that his life was filled with darkness, and had already left a shadow in his heart. Young Miss Melissa is truly a natural beauty. I am Hua Li Ruo. I greet young Miss Melissa. The red-caped man bowed politely. Holy Ruah. But when she found Ji-Zhe, she saw that Ji-Zhe's soul had left his body, his gaze was in a daze, and the unease in her heart became even stronger. She then looked for the others, only to realize that all of them were the same. She stood in the courtyard for a long time, but no one bothered about her. She greeted a few of them, but they were all extremely slow. Exion's face was calm. He had a smile on his face, as though he was narrating an extremely simple matter. We all have the same flames flowing in our veins, and the same beliefs are imprinted in our souls. Exion straightened his neck and used all his strength to speak. Oily hair. Exion's face was filled with fear as he looked at the zanbato in Xiao Man's other hand, who was waving it below him. Puff. Star cannon. But what did I see on their faces today? After 10,000 years of tempering, they have never given up. Seems like Exion definitely tortured Uncle Bing like a dog in the past. Melissa's mouth was bitter. He was the most famous genius of the Hua family, but he was even more famous for his explosive temper. As long as the other party was unhappy, he would destroy the branch in a matter of minutes. When the last ripple dissipated, the ocean of peace regained its calmness. The pitch-black ocean of peace was visibly fading, until it disappeared, and a bronze sword landed in Exion's hands. The bronze sword's blade became black and shiny, like a pool of black water. The original cracks seemed to have sunk into the sword's blade, and could be faintly seen. But the might of this move is truly terrifying. He was hard-working, tenacious, courageous and fearless, decisive in his actions, and never sloppy. It was these precious qualities that made the old man participate in the gamble that concerned the fate of the family. This humble one is Melissa, I greet young noble. Melissa bowed. She purposely put on a weak look, to prevent the other party from being too vile. After all, men would usually be more courteous to women. As expected of generals, they are all perverts. With that, he retracted the smile on his face, and with a stern expression, he bowed to the soldiers in front of him. Melissa's heart trembled. Hua family! The bright light auras floating around his body suddenly converged towards the center of his arms, converging into an even brighter light spot. The light spot in the center of his arms became brighter, and in a moment, it became so bright that it could not be seen with the naked eye. Exion's figure was completely enveloped by the dazzling light aura, and could not be distinguished. The young man, the general, the Exion, had awoken at that moment. If not for him personally witnessing it, he would never believe that there was such a terrifying attack in the world. Melissa had absolute trust in her grandfather's judgment, and the conclusion that she had secretly observed along the way had further confirmed it. In her heart, all of them had steel-like willpower, and an unafraid heart. Exion was able to be promoted to the rank of general, and become the second in command of the entire army. Other than his outstanding foresight and astonishing talent, the most important reason was that he was the only member who had mastered the 8 major killing techniques. Even the commander was only able to master 7 of them. When Tang Tian and the rest returned to Mace Fields trading in Snow City, Melissa was startled for a moment. Why are they back so quickly? According to Tang Tian's plan, they were prepared to go all out and muddy the waters. The light aura in front of him dimmed and dissipated, and his vision returned to normal. The gigantic python-like chains that filled the sky had disappeared. The Chiu offense army with the 3 blood and 3 withering Chiu offense army had disappeared, and where they stood, a black hole floated in the air. What responded to him was a uniform military salute. The spirit of the soldier does not dissipate, the battlefield is eternal, the cross in my heart, the stars do not fall. Walking to the front hall, a man in a fiery red cape stood in the center of the hall. Thinking about the past, Exion could not help but smile, and as he smiled, his face revealed a bit of killing intent. That's right, it's such a good day. How can I use an ordinary technique to end it? I've lost my soul. In the past, this technique was only used to kill nameless people. Thinking about it, there is nothing strange about it. That is the Chiu family, and it is not surprising for us to lose to them. Seems like I have to find some time to console them. Losing to the Chiu family is nothing to be ashamed of, and there is no need to be depressed. Suddenly, Uncle Wiley walked in with an ugly expression. Exhilarating opened up his arms, as though he was welcoming the tens of thousands of chains, and his body fell backwards. After 10,000 years, we have finally met again. Melissa felt as though she was struck by lightning, her eyes darkened, and she almost fell to the ground. Too terrifying! But seeing that Tang Tian did not have the intention to speak, she could only leave. It was not good to ask Tang Tian, so she decided to ask Ji Zhe and the rest what had happened. On the way back to Macefield Tradings, Exhilarating was dejected the entire time, and did not have the attitude of a victor. Exhilarating floated to the front of the formation, looking at the stiff, expressionless faces. He felt warmth in his heart. They stood there without moving, all of their faces facing him. Their gazes looked towards the sky, their eyes that had experienced the vicissitudes of life, were as calm as water, without a single ripple, like a mirror reflecting the clouds and chains in the sky. Ever since Tang Tian left, Melissa had been on tenterhook. The entire Macefield Tradings family had placed their bets on Tang Tian, and if Tang Tian lost, the Macefield Tradings family would fall into an abyss of eternal damnation. Law domain. The entire region was now a true law domain. In this space, they had been locked down, and any attempts to dodge would be futile. Melissa clenched his teeth and walked towards the hall. They could not see anything, their faces were filled with fear, and their hearts were filled with fear. They had never seen such a violent attack before. After 10,000 years, even if all of you are left with is a strand of obsession, I am willing to do so. Melissa was filled with despair. But the shock wave caused his entire body to go numb. He was overwhelmed with shock. He never expected the might of the attack to be so terrifying. But thinking about it, Exhilarating was a general, and could not help but feel relieved. They came with ill intentions. With a sharp gaze, Exhilarating bellowed, "Kill!" Chapter 909. If it was any other time, Melissa might feel awkward, but she would definitely be overwhelmed by the favor. But now, she was helping Lord Tang Tian to poach the Holy Temple's people. The Holy Temple had come to her so enthusiastically. Could it be that the Holy Temple had sensed something? Sophie led the honorable martial banner of knights to sweep through the Chiu family's encampment. Both parties were like fire and water, and there was no longer any possibility of reconciliation. Furthermore, the 5 great aristocratic families were plotting to seize power, which infuriated Temple. Susa's heart shook. When he came in, he didn't notice that there was someone else beside him. Upon hearing that, the entire honorable martial continent was in an uproar. Everyone was dumbstruck. No one had ever dared to do such a thing in Temple. Temple was enraged by this, and in the end, the current patriarch of the Hua family personally went to Temple to ask for forgiveness from the great clan elder. Only then did the bad influence disappear. There weren't any powerful elders by Master's side. Thinking back to the chains that fell from the sky, Sue's heart trembled. In the current Temple, the only one who could contend against them was probably Sophie. Fortunately, with the Macefield Tradings family, Temple would have one less problem. Holy Ruah, who had returned to his family, did not have any intention of stopping. He personally created an army, and in about 2 years, there was no news of him. After 2 years, he suddenly appeared and brought his army to look for people to fight, calling it actual combat drills, causing the entire honorable martial continent to be in chaos. Fights and arson were common occurrences. He did not let go of the local armies, the guards, the armies of the various families, even the armies of Temple. With Chiu Tianqing's death, the Chiu family's strength was greatly affected. Although there was still Chiu Suhua, but Chiu Suhua was not doing well in the Southern Alliance battlefield, and was being obstructed by the Southern Alliance. Up till now, he had not met up with Go Qing Wendao, and it was unknown whether or not he could return. Melissa was dumbstruck as she looked at the two important figures in front of her, who were glaring at each other like fighting cocks. Her face was filled with confusion. After that, Holy Ruah stopped for a long time, and became much more mature. He was truly powerful, adding on his deep background. He climbed up the ranks, and became the youngest lieutenant general. However, in the Tiger General's selection that followed, he was unsurprisingly eliminated. Holy Ruah did not care about the Chiu family at all, as that was something for the higher-ups to worry about. Friends, Seuss retorted, I don't think so. Who is helping the Chiu family to deal with Senior Xian? The visit of the elders of the temple had already made Melissa feel strange, and they were even so enthusiastic. Melissa's feelings could no longer be described as strange. The Macefield Trading's family had interacted with Temple in the past. An elder visiting? What a joke. They have always sent someone over. Get the person in charge to come over to Temple. Two different voices rang out simultaneously. When Holy Ruah heard the name of the envoy, his face immediately darkened. Temple's reaction was so fast that it surprised him. He felt that he was already fast enough, but he never expected that the moment he reached Macefield Trading's, Temple would arrive. Seuss made up his mind. He had to rope in the Macefield Trading's. Such a powerful force was enough to decide the outcome of the battle. A general-rank spirit general that could shatter space. Forget about now, even during normal times, Temple would be willing to pay any price. He just happened to be at the right time. A general-rank spirit general, tisk tisk, it's finally here. Melissa's heart clenched. Thinking about how Tang Tian and the rest had just lost, and Holy Ruah had already come to find them, this is a punitive expedition. When Seuss had personally witnessed the shocking battle at the Chiu Offense Institute, he had received a huge impact, and was still unable to calm down. He was secretly overwhelmed with shock. The Chiu family had concealed Chiu Tianqing's strength. If he followed the plan and took action against the Chiu family, he would definitely be badly injured. Holy Ruah was not afraid, and sneered. Macefield Tradings is my whole family's eternal friend. As for Temple, we can only represent Temple. Once the great clan elder made the decision, the entire temple was activated. The entire temple was united against a common enemy, and Temple's authority had never been challenged before. Melissa had heard of the tyrannical deeds of the tyrant since young, so when she knew that the man standing in front of her was Holy Ruah, she almost fainted. Seuss suddenly became stern, and said, Macefield Trading's family is an indispensable family in the honorable Marshall continent. Any provocation against Macefield Trading's family is a provocation against Temple. He did not notice that Holy Ruah's face was extremely gloomy. The competition in the Hua family was extremely intense, and in the eyes of many, it could be said to be cruel. Holy Ruah was about to say that she followed behind the boat, but suddenly, an attendant came in to report, Young miss, an envoy from Temple seeks an audience. Seuss chuckled. If I remember correctly, the Chiu family is the Hua family's ally. Is this how the Hua family treats their own ally? Truly makes my heart go cold. Melissa felt her head buzzing, as though she had been punched in the head. All right, she would rather be punched than face Holy Ruah. Envoy from Temple? Melissa was startled, but she replied, Quickly invite him in. Melissa's heart jumped even more, but she forced out a smile. It is an honor for Clan Elder to visit our humble house. How can we say that we are disturbing you? We wish for Temple to visit our trading organization every day. But our humble house does not have a senior called Xian. Melissa had a look of suspicion. I wonder where did you hear of this senior Xian? I think someone must have misinformed me. He had burned other people's houses, ran to other prestigious families, and beat up all the disciples of his generation. Of course, these were not his most famous battles. What truly made him famous was his dispute with a clan elder of Temple. He had snuck into Temple, and in front of everyone, he had beaten the clan elder until his face was swollen. No wonder Macefield Tradings did not give the Chiu family any face. They had many trump cards in their hands, and were not afraid of the Chiu family at all. The Chiu family was truly unlucky, and Seuss rejoiced in their misfortune. But when he heard that Temple had sent an envoy, he immediately became worried. If Macefield Tradings was roped in by Temple, it would undoubtedly be a huge threat to their plans. Huoli Rua, the most outstanding genius of the Hu family. The current generation of the Hu family did not have any great generals, and Huoli Rua was the strongest military general of the Hu family. Huoli Rua was the most outstanding disciple of the current generation. His talent and strength were impeccable, and could be said to be an outstanding genius. The only thing that hindered him was his fiery temper. It was normal for the disciples of aristocratic families to have a fiery temper, but for Huoli Rua to have such a fiery temper, no one could endure it. Melissa, who was still in shock, calmed down. The other party's tone and attitude did not seem to be looking for trouble. Oh right, are they looking for Senior Xin? Melissa thought about it. Huoli Rua seemed to have mentioned something about Senior Xin, and she had placed all her attention on the Iron Mask army. Senior Xin? Melissa had a look of suspicion. I don't have such a person here. Looking at Seuss's age, to be able to be called a senior by him, it had to be an old man with white hair. For a family with such a long history, they were extremely particular about the grooming of their disciples. They knew that these young disciples would determine the future of the family. They encouraged the competition between their disciples, and as long as it was a big family, the competition between the disciples would be extremely intense. Chiu Tianqing was already dead, and if Chiu Su Hua did not return, the Chiu family would be in danger. Huoli Rua scoffed. What a joke! Did my Hu family make a move? Clan Elder Seuss is old. His ears are not too good, it is normal for him to hear wrongly. Impossible. Temple wanted to make a move on the Chiu family, and Seuss was sent to be the vanguard. But her long years of training did not go to waste. She took a deep breath and squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying. I never thought that it would be General Hua. General Hua is so famous, and after seeing you today, your aura is truly extraordinary. After that, his actions once again made him the center of attention in the honorable Marshall continent. On the night he lost the election, he resigned from his position as a lieutenant general without hesitation and returned to the Hu family. Huoli Rua was anxious. He had come here for his own reasons, and without the authorization of the higher-ups, Temple's reaction was much faster than he had expected. What exactly is going on? Only the families that have stood strong for generations can prosper. Seuss laughed. Then I will come more often in the future. Seems like Temple has always been watching the Chiu family, Huoli Rua thought to himself, and felt that the problem was rather thorny. Of all people, the Chiu family had to provoke Macefield Tradings, to provoke a huge killing machine. That's right, Seuss has witnessed Senior Xion's unparalleled elegance, and truly admires him. Thus I thicken my face to come. I hope Miss Melissa won't take offense. Seuss chuckled. Huoli Rua was dragged on for a long time, and finally became impatient. He placed down the teacup in his hand and said, This time, I am here to visit Senior Xin of the Iron Mask Army. Melissa's scalp went numb. She did not know what to do, but she maintained a calm expression. Oh, General Hu also knows of the Han family's Iron Mask Army? After saying a few words in fear, the nervousness in Melissa's heart calmed down. She did not know why Huoli Rua was here, so she was careful and laughed it off. One moment, he was talking about the weather, and the next moment, he was talking about the new tea that had just arrived. Huoli Rua's face darkened, and just when everyone thought that he was about to explode, he suddenly laughed. Make people's hearts go cold? Who can compare to Temple? Where are the allies from back then? It doesn't feel good to be deserted, does it? Of course, Temple's counterattack was not just to get rid of the Chiu family. Seuss had many other responsibilities. For the 5 great clans, having a great general in this generation was a period of prosperity and development. But even if they did not, it did not affect their reputation. After a long period of accumulation, every noble family was as deep as the sea, and no one knew how deep their foundations were. From the moment he entered the door, he had been secretly sizing Melissa up. No matter how he looked, he could not see anything out of the ordinary. But thinking about what he saw, he quickly adjusted his attitude, and his thoughts became active. He turned, and when he saw who it was, the smile on his face disappeared, and he spoke indifferently. "I never thought that General Hull would be here." Seuss walked in, his eyes lit up when he saw Melissa. He took a big step forward and spoke passionately. "Miss Melissa, I am Temple Clan Elder Seuss. I have come to visit, and have disturbed you." The inheritance of a family was not something that could be completed in a single generation, and required many generations of continuous accumulation before it could reach its peak. There were many families in the past that had their disciples rise up to become great generals, but after that, they disappeared without a trace. Thinking about that, Seuss was roused, and immediately asked, "I wonder if I can pay a visit to Senior Exile?" At that time, Holy Rual was the most infamous shit-stirrer in the entire Honorable Martial Continent. Holy Rual obviously enjoyed it, and said that it was normal. Chapter 9-10. Thus, Exile appeared in front of Holy Rual and Seuss with a swollen face. This caused her to revere General Shao Ran, as she was extremely envious of General Shao Ran's valiant and heroic bearing when he held his blade. Therefore, spirit techniques were not carried forward in the sacred region, even though there were many saints in the sacred region. If it wasn't him, then who else could it be? "I think I know who the two sirs are talking about. I will invite Exile Senior out," Melissa said straightforwardly. Today's matter was too strange. It was better to let Lord Tang Tian worry about it. Even more families were filled with jealousy. With this battle, the Macefield Trading's family could be said to have been reborn. They had completely turned the tables. "Please wait a moment." Melissa had no choice but to interrupt the two. "I wonder if the two of you can describe Senior Exile's appearance?" The current Saint Continent was filled with armies, and almost all the famous armies in the Honorable Martial Continent were gathered in the Saint Continent. The commotion caused by the Chiu Offense Institute could not be concealed even if they wanted to. Didn't the plan fail? Why was it that even though he had failed, he was more of a winner than the winner? Looking at the two people in front of her who were at daggers drawn, she really wanted to say, "You guys really know how to play. Even at this time, Ning, you're still saying such words." Chiu Yu was extremely unhappy. Chiu Su Hua's life and death were unknown, and the Chiu family was currently in the most dangerous situation. Seuss could not help but say, "That's right, this junior has been in the Sacred Hall for many years, and has seen countless geniuses and experts, but I have never heard of someone as strong as Senior. Senior must have been all-powerful and invincible when you were alive." Senior's subordinates were also very strict. "Do you have a name? Such an invincible army, how can no one know of it?" But their statuses were as different as heaven and earth. Bianchi was ranked at the bottom of Temple, while Seuss was ranked in the top 5, and was a clan elder with true authority. With Macefield Trading's prestige, they did not have the qualifications to befriend clan elder Seuss. "Our Chiu family has not lost yet," Chiu Yu said firmly. He was slightly emotional. "We still have Su Hua, we still have you." Chiu Tianqing's peerless killing technique, Senior Exile's void-shattering, spread throughout the entire Saint Continent like a hurricane. Everyone was guessing the origins of this Senior Exile who had appeared out of nowhere. Everyone was filled with envy. The Macefield Trading's family must have accumulated good karma from their ancestors to be able to gain the favor of an exceptional spirit general. Holy Rual and Seuss were roused. They were most afraid that the Macefield Trading's family would be vague with their words. That would be a huge headache for them. Furthermore, they were worried that the Macefield Trading's family would misunderstand that they were using their power to oppress them, and if that happened, they would not even have a place to cry. If they angered Senior Exile, it would be fine if he directly attacked them, but if they ruined the plans of the higher-ups, they would not be able to redeem themselves even if they died 10,000 times. Looking at Xin, he had a bloody nose and a swollen face, but he looked like a villain intoxicated by success. Even when he was sitting on the chair, he did not have the slightest bit of a proper posture. We truly lost the battle at the Chiu Offense Institute, the man on the bed said lazily. He ignored the mark on his face and sat down in front of the two of them. He asked casually, "Are you looking for me?" "Let's wait. Aren't Temple and the Alliance trying to rope in Macefield tradings?" Huan Xin, Tang Qing Xin was Xin, Tian Hart I Xiao Tian Xin I Tian Xiao Xin I Tian Feng Xin. Seuss was a shrewd man. He looked as though he was flattering Xin, but in truth, he was trying to find out more about Xion's background. How can such an invincible martial artist be unknown in history? Even Chiu Ning himself never thought that the fate of the Chiu family would be placed in his hand. He was in a daze, and Chiu Yu's voice became more and more erratic. Xian did not care about the two of them who were dumbstruck, and left. In truth, Temple did not care much about the spirit techniques. Aside from being used as reference materials to fill the shelves, they had no use. He waved his hand and interrupted the two of them. "All right, stop talking nonsense. If you have anything to say, then say it. Don't waste my time chasing girls. My time to think about life." And Heaven's Road's martial techniques were a huge system. From low to high, there were many different types. To truly choose martial techniques meant that they had to separate from the mainstream army system of the Sacred Saint Galaxy, and that was something that the majority of people could not accept. The Chiu Offense Institute's massacre had just ended, and to the Chiu family, the Institute's defeat was even more of a tragedy. They knew that if they did not immediately come up with a powerful counterattack, then they would quickly be torn to shreds by the hounds and jackals that swarmed over. Huoli Rual was already impatient. He was not Seuss's opponent in bootlicking, and the further he went, the harder it became. Hearing Xion's words, it was as though he had been pardoned, and said straightforwardly, "I wish to become Senior's disciple." For the sake of withstanding the corrosion of time, the majority of spirit generals would choose to erase the majority of their memories, leaving behind only the obsession in the depths of their hearts, the memories that they were most unwilling to forget. So from start to finish, the two of them were extremely careful, afraid that their attitude would be the slightest bit bad. He was about to speak, but Xian waved his hand and interrupted him. "I understand your intentions, but I am a person who values benefits, and I know that your authority is limited. Go back first, and discuss the conditions, then come find me. In any case, I will choose whoever gives me more benefit." "Alright, let's stop here for today, I am very busy." "What's going on?" Huoli Rual was the same. Ever since he saw Xian, he had been bootlicking him like it was free. "Hey, you're Huoli Rual, the famous Huoli Rual. Where's the arrogance and untamed? Where's the arrogance and disregard of others? What happened to the unsheathing of blades?" The might of martial techniques were also limited, and were not attractive to the citizens of the honorable martial continent. All right, I will give it my all." Chiu Ning sighed, but a light aura flashed past his eyes before disappearing. "You better plan well, you are better than me when it comes to using your brain." However, this did not improve his situation. In the era where armies ruled, to the Chiu family, a top-notch military general like Chiu Suhua and Chiu Tianqing were able to intimidate the weak, and expand the Chiu family's influence. What's wrong with this world? Is it truly that ghost Xian? She was suspicious. As an old and powerful family, the Chiu family was extremely clear of what kind of fate they would encounter, and they would definitely not allow themselves to be slaughtered. Senior Xian. Temple had always placed importance on one's background, and in Temple's eyes, loyalty was far more important than strength. Of course, Seuss did not expect Senior Xian to be loyal to Temple, but knowing of his background was more reassuring. The Chiu family had already been abandoned by their own allies, and no other family was willing to speak up for the Chiu family. Even the vassals, the Elizabeth family, were currently avoiding the Chiu family like a plague. The victors would always shine brightly, while the losers would always be ignored. Does the Chiu family need assassins? Don't have such high expectations of me. The man on the bed sat up and said helplessly, with all of you acting like this, I am under a lot of pressure. There's still Su Hua, as long as he is not dead, no one will dare to touch the Chiu family. And the losers, the Chiu family, had fallen from being a top-notch aristocratic family in a single night, and were completely deserted. Chiu Tianqing's strength had shocked everyone, but so what? Chiu Tianqing was already dead. So what if Chiu Su Hua was a genius? His current whereabouts were unknown. After listening to the flattery, Xian satisfied his tiny vanity and started to become impatient. If you have the time, why don't you go to the twin violent girls? Hearing Xian's last sentence, Melissa rolled her eyes. This guy has nothing to do every day. He is always idling around. When has he ever been busy? The two of them greeted him respectfully at the same time, but then reacted and glared at each other. But this time, the two of them did not dare to quarrel, but sat upright. A powerful martial artist that could shatter space, even if the other party was a spirit general, was worthy of their respect. The waves from the battle had just started to spread. Huoli Rua became anxious. It was not that he did not want to invite them, but he had rushed over in a hurry, and did not obtain the authorization from the higher-ups, thus he did not dare to casually speak. Temple's martial techniques and spirit techniques came from Heaven's Road's temple. Because martial techniques were lower-leveled, Temple had publicized many of them, but spirit techniques had always been a secret of Temple. But all of these martial techniques that came from Heaven's Road did not have much of an influence in the honorable martial continent. Occasionally, there would be people who learned one or two martial techniques, and used them to support their lives. He had always thought highly of himself and had an arrogant temper, but when he met someone who truly admired him, he would admire him from the bottom of his heart. As long as Senior Xian was able to reveal some information, Seuss believed that he would definitely be able to investigate Senior Xian's background. Seuss spoke out solemnly. I represent Temple, to invite Senior Xian and Macefield Tradings to join Temple. That Senior Gue Xian? She suddenly recalled. Miss Chia had a subordinate called Xian. Could it be him? No matter how strong a person was, he could only be an assassin. Chiu Ning was an exception. It was something that could not be helped, because Chiu Ning walked a completely different path. Many people guessed that Senior Xian and Macefield Trading's ancestor had some sort of relationship, but other than that, no one could think of any other reason for Macefield Tradings to obtain Senior Xian's favor. Before today, this junior thought that I was already the strongest military general in the world, but after witnessing Senior's battle, I finally know what it means to be a frog in a well, to know how vast the world is, and to know that there is still a powerful martial artist like Senior. Breaking through the void, there is actually such a thing. I was truly too laughable in the past. Huoli Rua could not help but speak up. He was filled with admiration. Huoli Rua and Seuss immediately stopped bickering. Such spirit generals were usually extremely powerful, and a few of the most powerful martial artists would gradually recover their memories, and would start to consciously cultivate, becoming stronger day by day. In the past, the Chiu family had a good relationship with Temple, and after Chiu Su Hua became a great general, he was able to obtain some special things from Temple, like martial techniques and spirit technique. Chiu Yu heard Ah Ning's guarantee and calmed down. He was extremely confident in Chiu Ning's strength, but was worried that Chiu Ning would not treat him seriously, since the family usually did not place any importance on Chiu Ning. Are they truly clan elders from Temple? And they are ranked in the top 5 clan elders? In the history of Temple, there had been such spirit generals before. But these spirit generals were extremely difficult to subdue, and although they would not be corroded by energy, they would be corroded by time. But the two of them were arguing right in front of her, and even if she was beaten to death, Melissa would never have thought that she would receive such treatment. Although the new senior had a slight injury on his face, the two of them pretended that they did not see it. Master Tang Tian is already so powerful? Master Tang Tian is already so powerful? Melissa's impression of Master Tang Tian had become even more unfathomable. Ever since Master Tang Tian returned, Melissa felt that the situation had suddenly developed in a strange direction. Everything was extremely strange, and she did not know what to do. In the eyes of the top predators in the Saint Continent, the current Chiu family was a piece of juicy meat. Without the power to protect them, the Chiu family's abundant resources and wealth attracted the greed of countless people. If it was during peaceful times, everyone would still have some misgivings, but it was a turning point, and the more power they had, the higher the chances of victory in the future. Many of them had already started to plot in the dark. When Seuss heard that, he had the intention to stab Huoli Rua to death, but he could not do so, and maintained a smile on his face. "Senior, you misunderstand. It is a misunderstanding. This junior was just curious. I did not have any intention of interrogating you. Towards senior, this junior only has respect and reverence, and does not dare to have any other thoughts." Melissa stared blankly at the strange scene in the hall, her mind at a loss. "He is not tall, and has an ordinary appearance, but he is very young." Clan Elder Seuss gestured. "What does the Chiu family have left?" He did not plan to give Seuss any face. Temple was their #1 target. They had restraining fear, but they were not afraid at all. Even the restraining fear was because they did not want to ruin the current situation. The battle at Chiu Offense Institute had caused the Macefield Trading's family's reputation to soar, and in a single night, they had risen to the ranks of the top aristocratic families in the Saint Continent, and received the most fervent pursuit. In the entire Chiu family, no one felt that the Chiu family would ever need assassins to redeem their dignity. Xian could tell that Huoli Rua's respect came from the bottom of his heart, and was secretly pleased. Huoli Rua and Seuss were also stunned by Xian's words. They were both aristocratic families, and the people they interacted with were all people of the upper class. When had they ever heard such blatant words? Compared to martial techniques, the might of spirit techniques was much stronger. After all, in Heaven's Road, it was a system that only saints could train in. But spirit techniques did not flourish in the Sacred Saint Galaxy because of that. Temple's secrecy was one of the reasons, but the main reason was that spirit techniques were too complicated. Regardless of whether it was Huoli Rua or Clan Elder Seuss, they were existences that she had to look up to in the past. The Hu family and Macefield Trading's family did not have any interactions, as the Hu family was high up in the clouds. She knew of Clan Elder Seuss. The Macefield Trading's family had spent countless efforts to befriend Clan Elder Bianchi, who was Clan Elder Seuss' best friend. Spirit techniques originated from martial techniques, and were the products of Heaven's Road martial artists who stepped into the realm of saints, and were even more advanced. The saints of Heaven's Road and the saints of Sacred Saint Galaxy, other than being able to directly mobilize energy, had too many differences. For example, spirit domain, spirit value, etc., much less spirit technique cards which the Sacred Saint Galaxy could not comprehend. Who knew that Xiu Ning would actually walk a path, and become the strongest individual martial artist in the Chiu family? Tang Tian and Chie also did not expect Huoli Rua and Temple to actually find them, and the two of them started to discuss softly. When Xian heard the other party calling him Senior Xian, he immediately became pleased, and ran to Xiaoman to show off, but was ruthlessly beaten up by her. "Didn't you see that even General Huoli Rua and Temple's Clan Elder Seuss both went to Snow City to pay a visit to Senior Xian? The meaning behind it was clear." Melissa subconsciously denied it. She respected Miss Qian Hui, but she did not have a good impression of Exhilarating. He was always sloppy and did not have a proper job, and was either slacking off or bragging to Jize, and was often beaten up by General Xiaoman. Exhilarating was extremely crafty. Upon hearing Seuss's words, how could he not understand? He sneered. Are you trying to find out my background? We are not familiar with each other, why should I tell you? After thinking for a long time, Melissa could not think of a second possibility. Melissa was startled. After hearing the two's description, she was certain that it was Exhilarating. All right, in any case, everything that happened today is extremely strange, she consoled herself. After becoming a spirit general, the capacity of their memories would be greatly reduced, because the memories would fuse with their body. With the flow of time, new memories would continuously be added to the spirit general, and upon exceeding the capacity of the memories, the spirit general's body would slowly melt, and that was the corrosion of time. Since young, he was extremely interested in martial techniques, and did not listen to the advice of his elders, and was obsessed with martial techniques. Thus, since young, he was not valued by his family, but he did not care, and continued to do things his own way. Isn't that how the world works? The victor should receive such treatment, the loser will always be left with nothing. Behind him, a man who was lying on the bed said indifferently. Chiu Su-hua and him were similar in age, and grew up together. After becoming a great general, Chiu Su-hua specially obtained many spirit techniques from Temple for him. These spirit techniques were kept secret by Temple, but the authority of a great general was high enough, and was completely unrestricted. Exhilarating did not comment, and turned to look at Seuss. But no matter how he racked his brains, he could not find any historical figures that matched Senior Exhilarating's description. The sacred Saint Galaxy's energy concentration was too high, and the difficulty of producing a spirit general was extremely high. But the stronger the martial artist, the higher the possibility of producing a spirit general after death. All of these peak martial artists had experienced countless of tempering when they were alive, and had long become as tough as steel. As long as they had an obsession in their hearts, it would be so strong that even energy would not be able to corrode it. Chiu Yu peeked through the gaps in the curtains and looked at the Macefield tradings in the distance. All of the familiar faces inside caused him to be enraged, and he spoke out hatefully. These bunch of fence-sitters. They usually come to our Chiu family to wag their tails and beg for pity, but now they are going to curry favor with Macefield tradings. They are all despicable people. All right, they are not here for me. We have not lost yet, Chiu Yu said. He is a spirit general, Huoli Ruo pointed out. Previously, when clan elder Seuss treated her so passionately, she already felt that it was strange. But now that she saw the smile on clan elder Seuss's face, she felt that something was wrong with her eyes. The look of him groveling made it seem as though he wanted to pounce on Exhilarating and lick his toes. Huoli Ruo could not wait for Seuss to offend Senior Exhilarating, and immediately fanned the flames. Senior, please calm your anger. You cannot blame clan elder Seuss. It can only be said that Temple's style has always been like this. They are used to dictating the fate of others, and it is inevitable for them to have an interrogative tone. Clan elder Seuss did not do it on purpose. No one would treat the Macefield Tradings family as a lowly prestigious family. Chapter 9:11. Considering that the origin of the letter might be related to the Macefield Tradings family, we have also investigated the Macefield Tradings family. We have looked into the history of the Macefield family, but the information is limited. The Macefield Tradings family had a long history. Their ancestors were a branch of the northern families, and the northern families could be traced back to 20,000 years ago. It is a pity that the Macefield Tradings family did not survive well over the generations, and the information on this aspect was poorly preserved. There were no useful information left behind. No one made a sound. No matter how many cannon fodder there are, they are still cannon fodder. Huolu Shang snorted. No one can stop us, not even Macefield. Ta Fei knew that the great clan elder was truly enraged. He also felt that the prestigious families were too much. For their own benefits, they were willing to sacrifice the honorable Martial Continent's benefits. Don't these fools know what they will face if the honorable Martial Continent loses? Iron Mask Army, Macefield Tradings, he is the key. Sadra said indifferently. I believe he can see the situation clearly. Furthermore, he is able to control such a powerful spirit general. He will definitely be interested in the things in temple. However, they did not have the time to feel sad for the Chiu family. For such a huge change to occur at such a crucial moment, what they were most concerned about was the impact it would have on the current situation. The tea house opposite the Chamber of Commerce was also packed every day. The rest all nodded their heads. They went to the scene, and upon seeing the completely destroyed Chiu Offense Institute, their emotions became even more profound. This time, the Chiu family had completely fallen. This defeat would have a profound effect on the Chiu family, and it could possibly lead to the fall of the Chiu family. At the thought of a top-notch aristocratic family disappearing just like that, everyone couldn't help but feel sad. Temple and the 5 great aristocratic families, it was now the 4 great aristocratic families, all of them were trying their best to rope in the Macefield Tradings. Furthermore, there was a saying that this was the most crucial battle for both sides, and whichever side the Macefield Tradings chose, that side's chances of victory would increase greatly. After following the Great Elder for so many years, he understood the Great Elder's personality very well. He did not conceal anything just because he might anger the Great Elder. However, Great Elder's increasing pressure still made him uncontrollably nervous. This had nothing to do with habit, but rather his body's instinctive reaction. The great clan elder muttered to himself for a moment, then spoke up. Tell Seuss, I have given him the greatest authority. I need to see this spirit general. Elder Ta Fei's body trembled. His back was drenched in sweat. He lowered his head, forced himself to calm down, gritted his teeth and said, Yes. We didn't find any valuable information. Everyone's expression turned solemn. The current situation was extremely delicate. Any small change could change the situation, not to mention that this was not a small change. Elder Ta Fei was sincerely convinced, as always. Howell reminded everyone, the Macefield Tradings family is not cannon fodder. He had never heard of a general-rank spirit general, and that sword was also an incredible treasure. Even the Chiu Offense Army was destroyed. His strength was unfathomable. We need to win over the Macefield family. Yes. Ta Fei replied. He hesitated for a moment. Could it be from Heaven's Road? I am worried that this spirit general is related to the Southern Alliance. Southern Alliance's Tang Tian has an extremely powerful spirit general under him. Snow City had been overcrowded recently, and almost all the famous people in Saint Continent had come here. Of course, the most lively place was still Macefield Tradings. Everyone knew how popular the current Macefield Tradings was. Agreed. Mo Egu nodded his head. Such a powerful spirit general is an invincible army. If they were to land in Temple's hands, we will be in danger. Who has the confidence to defeat him? Honorable Marshal Palace. The Chiu family's heavy losses was definitely the worst thing for them. The original 5 families had become 4 families, and their strength had been severely affected. Who would Macefield Tradings choose? Everyone was filled with curiosity and worry. Other than the families that had already chosen a side, the majority of the people only wished for the situation to become clear. He spoke respectfully. They are seeking their own deaths. A look of vexation flashed past his eyes. That's right, how could I forget such an important detail? Everyone watched the commotion and were overjoyed. Snow City was not a rural place, but they had never seen so many important figures before. The crowd would occasionally exclaim out in surprise, as all the shining and noble names kept appearing in front of their eyes. Everyone sighed at the vicissitudes of the world. The once small prestigious families had actually become the crux of the honorable Martial Continent's situation. Yes, yes, yes. Clan Elder Seuss's report was not exaggerated. It was hard to verify in the early stages of the Chiu Offense Institute battle, but in the later stages, especially Xian's final attack, many people witnessed it. We have investigated the 60 bystanders who witnessed the final attack, and the conclusion we obtained was the same. We have arranged for 70 clan elders to read through over 3,000 ancient historical records, and in the end, we have 9 possible suspects, but we are still unable to confirm his true identity. He looks familiar, Sai, I can't remember. Inside the hall, other than the Chiu family, the 5 aristocratic family patriarchs were all present. The Chiu Offense Institute battle had shocked the Saint Continent. They had rushed over overnight as fast as they could, not daring to delay in the slightest. They had just returned from the Chiu Offense Institute, and all of their faces were filled with shock. All of them were prestigious aristocratic families, with many soldiers and geniuses, but none of them dared to pat their chest and say that they could defeat the Spirit General. They have already lost the courage and glory of their ancestors. They are just a group of rats that are immersed in the dark and playing with schemes. They are not worthy of what they have now. But they will quickly understand that the honorable martial continent does not need them, they only need Temple. Temple did not need them, their era had ended 500 years ago. Temple needs fresh blood, the honorable martial continent needs fresh blood. We need to cut off the rotten flesh and blood, and welcome a new life. That's right. Those fellows think that by joining hands, they can go against us. They think that by making a move at this time, we will hold back, and for the sake of the big picture, we will compromise with them. The great clan elder's voice was filled with ridicule. What a foolish thought. Ta Fei nodded his head. I understand. The Macefield Trading's family is a small prestigious family, and fits our principle of roping them in. The Hua family courtyard was heavily guarded. Ta Fei had been the great clan elder's assistant when the great clan elder was unknown. He had followed the great clan elder for over 40 years, and had been cautious and conscientious, gaining the great clan elder's trust. When the great clan elder became the master of the honorable martial palace, he had been promoted step by step, and became the second in command of Temple. Temple, they are a new prestigious family. Everyone thought of the same answer, and their expressions became excited. If he wanted conditions, it would have been easy, but now he wants us to state our conditions. Howell's face was filled with pain. Huoli Rua revealed a look of reminiscence, and immediately replied, Yes. Senior Exen bowed to the leader of the Iron Mask army, and called him son-in-law, and called himself subordinate. Sadra had the highest prestige out of the 4 of them, and upon hearing his words, the 4 of them immediately agreed. Who knows, they might still be dreaming of replacing us. They are truly foolish. Mo Gu shook his head. Temple has gone back on their promise that year. They are no longer able to tolerate any aristocratic families. They want to be the only masters of the honorable martial continent. Whoever they want to live will live, whoever they want to die will die. All of these idiots are just a group of cannon fodder, not worth mentioning. The Vicari family's patriarch, Howell Vicari, said, Now we need to discuss about how this matter will affect us. Clan Elder Ta Fei's report was as detailed as always. His face was filled with wrinkles, but he was hale and hearty. His gray eyes remained sharp, his hair was combed impeccably, and the pure white robe on his body was not bulky at all. Unlike the other clan elders who liked to wear rings embedded with sparkling gems, or liked to wear exquisite brooches, he did not have any decorations on him, and was as simple as an old soldier waiting for orders. That's right, they thought that the great clan elder would definitely not let the honorable martial continent fail, so he would definitely compromise. But they would never have thought that the great clan elder would be so astute and farsighted. If it was the first time they met, no one would have thought that the simple and spirited old man would actually be the number 2 clan elder of Temple. The great clan elder's tone was impassioned, the holy flames seemed to have sensed his emotions, and released a dazzling light aura, making him look like a golden sun. He seems to be the patriarch of the Constance family. Hey, the Goosite family's patriarch, who do you think he is working for? After listening to Clan Elder Ta Fei's report, the great clan elder said indifferently, "You've said so much, does that mean that there is no conclusion?" "They are already rotten, Ta Fei. In the past few days, the number of esteemed guests that came to visit the Macefield Tradings had practically caused it to explode. Both parties had mobilized their full strength, wave after wave of lobbyists brought along astonishing wealth, with extravagant praises, instigation, and promises that flowed endlessly." The great clan elder's voice resonated in the Honorable Martial Palace. Hal Vicari continued, "Temple has issued the order to gather, although we have already informed them, but they still gathered over 300 small prestigious families. In terms of army numbers, we are at a disadvantage." The great clan elder's voice came out from the golden holy flames. It was calm and filled with confidence. "As long as he is a spirit general, it does not matter. I never thought that there would be such a powerful spirit general in the world." The Chiu family did not lose unjustly. The patriarch of the Mo family, Mo Igu, was both moved and shocked. Sadra suddenly turned to look at Huoli Ruo, who was behind Huolu Shang. "Who did you say the spirit general bowed to? Didn't Temple want to use the small prestigious families that they had personally supported to replace us?" Huolu Shang snorted. "Ever since they started talking about the prestigious families needing the recognition of Temple, we had already guessed that such a day would come. Then let us see how much power those country bumpkins have." Sadra Croft, who had been silent the entire time, spoke up. "Regardless of what conditions he raises, satisfy him." Huolu Shang's eyes lit up. "You mean?" Chapter 9:12. And the situation had reached its peak when Clan Elder Seuss appeared alone in Snow City. Out of all of them, other than Chie Shangguan, the one with the most acute sense of smell was Xian. He had also sensed that something was amiss, and the faintly discernible dangerous aura in the air. "Desperate for help?" Fu Jingji muttered. Mo Igu did not think much of it. "Do you think that Temple can play any tricks?" Huolu Shang and Mo Igu could not help but reveal smiles. Macefield Trading's family's strength was unfathomable, and if they had a choice, they would definitely not fight with Macefield Trading's family. And once Macefield Trading's joins their alliance, Temple's destruction will be imminent. Sadra's eyes flashed with caution. "Don't be careless." Huolu Shang spoke with disdain. "Temple is finished, their era is over." Seeing Seuss's dejected look, "I am happy. He is usually so arrogant. He is exactly the same as Temple. It's time to show our cards." Huolu Shang looked at Snow City in the distance, his face becoming serious. "If Macefield Tradings chooses Temple, what measures do we have to take?" Xiao Ran snorted, but was obviously bribed by Ji Zai's big sister Xiao Ran. From the start, he was most worried about the great clan elder who had no presence, and not Sophie, nor the banner of knights. Everyone's eyes landed on Sadra. He was the soul of the prestigious families. Tang Tian and Chie sat in a corner, watching the bunch of clowns. They could not help but laugh. Chie also laughed, but the smile on her face quickly disappeared, and she became worried. "Big brother Tian, I feel that something is amiss." Melissa was startled for a moment, but quickly reacted. "I will immediately go and count them." Suddenly, his eyes blurred, and a figure blocked his path. Seuss took a deep breath and strode forward. "Then destroy him." Sadra did not hesitate, his expression was calm. "Destroy him at all costs." Mo Igu nodded his head. "That's right, even the cleverest housewife cannot cook without rice. He has no cards, how can he play?" The conflicts between the new prestigious families, as well as their actions towards Temple, were no longer a secret. Senior Xian's intention was very clear. He wanted them to bid at the same time. It was extremely irrational to provoke Senior Xian and the Macefield Tradings when they held the advantage. And it was completely unnecessary. Howell did not believe that Temple could offer better terms than them. Jize sneered, and immediately turned his face. Sister Xiao Ran, he said he has a higher seniority than you. Temple has ruled over the honorable martial continent for so many years, isn't this reaction a little too powerless? Thus, they brought their armies, the strongest armies of the 4 families, to control Snow City. After a moment, Melissa returned with a strange look on her face. Master, Miss Chia, we have calculated, there are more guests from the aristocratic alliance, about 60%. Everyone nodded their heads in unison. If Macefield Tradings were to side with Temple, it would be a huge threat to them, and even if they had to pay any price, they had to get rid of Macefield Tradings. On the empty street, Elder Seuss' figure was indescribably bleak. There were no strict guards with swords as sharp as snow, no noble and magnificent guards, no figures of all people bowing humbly, no dazzling divine light like the sun. He raised his head and recognized Howl. But in everyone else's eyes, he looked like a cornered beast struggling. All of the new prestigious families that were approached would promise, but they lacked actual actions. Sadra spoke up indifferently. I hope that I am overthinking. Temple was in a dangerous situation, and was showing signs of decline. Xiao Ran stared at Oxian with an unkind expression. Howl sneered. With your current state, there is no need for you to meet Senior Oxian. Howl choked up. He was filled with fear towards the unfathomable Senior Oxian. He truly did not dare to stop Seuss, and not let him meet Senior Oxian. Macefield Tradings is the most important bargaining chip at the moment. Seuss' heart was filled with sorrow. He felt that Temple was truly in danger. Maybe I will die in Snow City this time. He was extremely depressed. Seuss laughed out loud. Could it be that you want to make the decision for Senior Oxian? I wonder if Senior Oxian is willing. The others stopped their quarreling and looked at Chia. But he knew that there was no point in saying anything, and he could only focus. In the current situation, no matter how experienced and astute he was, he could not think of how Temple could turn the tables. But he knew that the great clan elder was not someone who would surrender without a fight. Howl kept the complacency in his heart and said, I will go meet him. He racked his brains, but could not understand the great clan elder's intentions. Even if he could convince the Macefield Tradings family, the enemy would not let them leave alive. Howl opened up a path and gestured, Let's go together. There were too many guests in the past few days, and the entire organization was exhausted from dealing with them. Something's wrong. Tang Tian's attention was immediately attracted, and he immediately asked, What's wrong? Howl laughed insincerely. Why is Clan Elder Seuss here alone? Could it be that Temple is not worried about Clan Elder Seuss' safety? Or do you think that the blades in our hands are not sharp enough? That we cannot cut off Clan Elder's head? The smile on Hulu Shang's face froze. He forced a smile. You guys are thinking too much. I admit that the great Clan Elder is powerful. But I do not believe that the great Clan Elder alone can turn the situation around. That's not right. Oxian's face became gloomy as he shook his head. Temple's actions in the past few days are also very strange. They have only done one thing. Chia said. They have sent out all of their clan elders, and these clan elders are constantly meeting with the various families, but they do not seem to be active and have no results. I have noticed that these clan elders are scattered all over the Saint Continent, and there are some places that do not have many armies. Jize looked at Oxian with a look of disbelief. Can you act well? Don't drop the ball at the crucial moment, or Big Sister Xiao Ran will definitely not forgive you. The powerful Temple could only rely on the new prestigious families. But the new prestigious families that were loose and scattered all had their own thoughts. Their armies were weak, and they lacked trust in each other, and more importantly, they were worried about Temple. Seuss threw away the pessimism in his heart and said calmly, Whether or not to cut them down, wait till I see Senior Oxian. I believe that Senior Oxian will make the decision. How can a declining Temple compete with the prestigious families alliance for the Macefield Tradings family? Compared to the overbearing prestigious family's alliance, Temple's reaction was much weaker. Sophie's actions of leading the honorable martial banner of knights to massacre the Chiu family's encampment was more of a retaliation than a venting of anger. Almost all of the clan elders of Temple were mobilized. They were sent to various places in the Saint Continent to contact the various large armies and make their last effort. Seuss walked on the streets. His heart was trembling in fear. Snow City was under the control of the enemy armies, and he had the misconception that he was a sheep in a tiger's den. But it was the great clan elder's orders, and he could only obey. The worry in his heart did not decrease, but instead increased. He was different from the rest. He had interacted with the great clan elder before, and understood him better. He knew that the great clan elder, who lived in seclusion and never asked about anything, was a powerful man. Aoxian looked at Jize with disdain. "Do you think I'm like you? Come, obediently call me Senior Aoxian." The fact that Hugh had come alone was the best proof of that. Tang Tian had always trusted Chie's judgment, as Chie was much more intelligent than him. Qian Hui did not answer Tang Tian's question, but turned to ask Melissa. "Miss Melissa, for the past few days, are the guests speaking up for Temple more, or are they speaking up for the aristocratic families more?" Snow City was filled with an indescribable pressure and heaviness. The might of the 4 aristocratic families had enveloped the sky of the Saint Continent. But the great clan elder was stubborn and did not listen to his opinion. With Chie's words, Tang Tian reacted, and had a look of confusion. "That's right, aren't they anxious?" Although they knew that if the prestigious family's alliance were to win, it would not be a good thing for them. But they knew that only by standing by the victor's side would they be able to survive. Sadra shook his head. "You guys forgot about someone." Aoxian was dumbstruck. He was shocked by Jize's shamelessness. "So it can be like this. Seems like the mystery will be revealed today." Tang Tian muttered to himself, flames dancing in his eyes. Furthermore, after thinking about the conditions that his side could provide, Seuss did not have any confidence. He could not understand the great clan elder's orders, for all of Temple's clan elders to be mobilized and sent to various places in the Saint Continent. To Seuss, it was a completely futile action, and would instead let others see that Temple had lost control of the situation. Rather than casting a net in vain, it was better to gather all of their strength and attack the Macefield Trading's family. There were many new prestigious families, and the prestigious families that were secretly colluding with each other. Macefield Tradings. No one was an ordinary person. They knew that they could not be careless until the last moment. The battle concerned the life and death of their families. If they won, they would become the true masters of the honorable martial continent. If they lost, they and their families would fall into the abyss of hell. There are many reasons why Temple is at a disadvantage, but it is not strange. So Temple and the prestigious families alliance need to rope us in, and logically speaking, Temple needs us more urgently. But the majority of the guests are from the prestigious families alliance. Isn't that strange? Chia hit the nail on the head. Temple had too few bargaining chips. Other than the honorable martial banner of knights, they had nothing else. Jiaya was far away in the Wei Yiguan continent. Mu Jixia's life and death were unknown, and Temple's most loyal forces were all in the Southern Alliance. The lieutenant generals that were still in the honorable martial continent had countless connections with the prestigious families, and most of them had ambiguous attitudes. Howl was startled, then asked, "Great clan elder?" In the sky, Howl could not help but reveal a pleased smile. Temple also knows that they cannot snatch us, so they only sent Seuss. Everyone who witnessed the scene had an indescribable feeling in their hearts. It was Temple, the one that created the honorable martial continent, the one that established their unbreakable dominance, but in a single night, it was as if the building had collapsed. Chie's face seemed to release a light aura that could see through everything. Her imposing aura caused everyone to feel deep veneration, and only at that moment did everyone remember her nickname as the Goddess of War. Chapter 9:13. Clan Elder Seuss, who was trembling violently, suddenly released a white flame from his body. But at such a time, he could not retreat. He did not speak any nonsense, and first bowed to Exian. Greetings, Senior Exian. Temple had pushed the Macefield Trading's family in front of them. Temple's arrogance was truly incurable. It was not easy for them to do so. It was not difficult for the soldiers to stay focused in the face of sudden situations, but in calm situations, it was much more difficult to maintain their focus. To be able to do that meant that they were elites, and it meant that they had undergone tough training, to be able to brand discipline into their instincts. Ever since he had gained enlightenment on the awakened god armor, how long had it been since he felt the threat of death? Sadra was unmoved. That is why there is this war. Suddenly, a low and dignified yet unfamiliar voice interrupted Exian's words. Tang Tian's movements were the fastest. The moment the holy flame appeared, he had already made his move on Clan Elder Seuss. His intuition was extremely sharp, but at that moment, his heart was enveloped by an unprecedented sense of danger. Sadra suddenly understood, his eyes filled with disbelief. You want to fight against all the prestigious families. The winner would win everything, and the loser would lose everything, even their lives would be lost. The unfamiliar voice from before had actually come from Theseus. They then understood where Temple's confidence came from. Truly a tight security, Seuss sighed in his heart. The Iron Mask army was much more outstanding than he had imagined. All of the soldiers were wearing iron masks, but he could still see many things. Every single one of them maintained their vigilance, and he did not see any of the soldiers' eyes wandering or distracted. Sadra's face darkened, causing him to feel uneasy. It was a condition that the Macefield Trading's family could not reject. Everything in the honorable Martial continent, including all of you, belongs to Temple. The great clan elder's tone was indifferent, but extremely tyrannical. Seuss's face finally changed. An clan elder is colluding with the enemy. The difference was like the difference between heaven and earth. Suddenly, a trace of understanding surfaced in his heart. Before meeting Xiao Ran and the young miss, his world only had the past, but now, his world still had the present. It feels good. So good. Seuss spoke with confidence. That's right, in terms of spirit research, who is more authoritative than Temple? Sandra's expression returned to normal. Yes, it's been 23 years. Exian was seated at the seat of honor, with Melissa standing quietly by his side. The soldiers of the Iron Mask army stood side by side with their backs against the white wall, standing silently, creating a somber atmosphere. Seuss' heart skipped a beat, but his face remained calm as he sneered. Is that so? Even if you take down Temple, you will only get a pile of ruins. Seuss' head exploded like a watermelon, but his body did not fall. Death. He could smell death. It still failed. The next scene made everyone suck in a breath of cold air. His gaze involuntarily turned to Xiao Ran. In the entire place, only Xiao Ran would be able to understand him the most, and would be able to understand how difficult it was to live for so long. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but bloom into an undetectable smile. Holy flame! The world of black and white seemed to have become brighter at this moment, becoming more lively, becoming more vivid, becoming a different color, even though he was just a spirit general. Seuss smiled bitterly in his heart. He had no confidence at all. Temple's arrogance and unwillingness to take a step back became even more abnormal. His voice had a slight change in tone, showing the shock in his heart. Seuss did not move. His mouth opened and closed, and his voice seemed to come out from his chest. Sandra, I never thought that you would still be able to recognize my voice. It has been 20 years since we last met. Exian nodded his head. Clan Elder Seuss must have brought Temple's sincerity. I wonder what conditions Temple is willing to offer? A few sneers came out. It was Huolu Shang and the rest who revealed looks of ridicule. At such a time, Temple actually dares to put on such a high and mighty attitude. They are truly seeking death. Indiscriminate destruction? You are overestimating the clan elder's courage. Sandra chuckled. Not everyone is willing to be buried with Temple. Our temple has many friends as well. As long as Temple has it, it will be ours. Just at that moment, Ixion suddenly spoke out. I don't need it. Seuss retracted his attention. No matter how elite the Iron Mask army was, if they were unable to convince them, to Temple, it would be the worst thing that could happen. Sandra continued to speak leisurely. Thank you, Temple, for helping us research for so long. We will definitely bring these results to greater heights. Temple still has many good things, and we will cherish them. Everyone could feel the dangerous aura, but they did not know where the danger was coming from. On the contrary, Lu Shang and the rest who were initially panicking immediately calmed down. They understood Sandra, and since he had spoken, they knew that he definitely had a way. But his words were not wrong. But it was fine. It was not that he did not have any bargaining chips. The pure and gentle holy flames showed how profound Seuss's attainments were. The holy flames enveloped Seuss's entire body, making him look like he was on fire. Ixion's gaze turned to Clan Elder Seuss and said, If that's the case, then I'm sorry. Ixion suddenly stood up. His gaze exploded as he stared at Seuss. Everyone else stood up in shock, and looked at Seuss as though they had seen a ghost. I am just taking back what belongs to us, Sandra said indifferently. Ixion did not deny it. His gaze pretended to sweep past the guards not far away, and exchanged glances with Tang Tian and Chia, and saw the vigilance in each other's eyes. Thinking about it now, there were many signs, but I only thought that they were trying to befriend us, and never expected for their schemes to be so huge. I am not just living in my memories. Impossible. Lu Shang suddenly spoke out. The corrosion of time is the laws of the world, and cannot be stopped by humans. All of you are speaking nonsense. Everyone could tell that something was wrong with Seuss. His body was stiff and unmoving, his gaze was dazed and lost focus, and only his mouth was opening and closing. The scene in front of them was extremely strange. Everyone felt a chill down their spines, and their hairs stood on end. Seuss calmed down instead. In truth, he did not believe it in his heart, but he could not care too much about it at the moment. He pretended to be confident and said, It seems like everyone has forgotten. Temple was the first to start researching spirits, and I believe that no one has invested more than Temple in this aspect. Lu Shang and the rest's eyes lit up. That's right, as long as we take down Temple, everything in Temple will belong to us. Your memory is always better than mine. I truly do not wish to meet you, old friends, but now we have to fight to the death. The great clan elder sighed. Their gazes met, and Ixion could sense the warmth and concern in Xiao Rant's eyes. Seuss did not know why the great clan elder was not willing to give in at such a time, although they had to use any conditions to rope in Macefield tradings, but they were not willing to give the most important condition. Temple's attitude was clear. Temple was the master, and Macefield Tradings was the subordinate. And if Macefield Tradings were to join the alliance, they would be partners, and everyone would be the masters of Honorable Marshall Continent in the future. Although it would involve the distribution of power and benefits, but at least everyone would be equal. Seuss was not used to doing things in such a direct manner, but at that moment, he steeled his heart and went straight to the point. As long as Macefield Tradings is willing to follow Temple, Macefield Tradings will be the only aristocratic family in Honorable Marshall Continent. Regardless of what Macefield Tradings needs, Temple will satisfy them. Sadra finally revealed a smile. He knew that Temple had completely failed. But Temple's attitude was still a little surprising. He calmed himself down and spoke. Temple is willing to impart the method to resist against the corrosion of time, and can extend Senior Exion's life. Upon hearing Sadra's words, a bad premonition surfaced in Seuss's heart. 20 years ago, I already knew that you did not submit, but it was difficult for me to take action against you. Everything has ended, Sadra. Thank you for this war. A new era is about to begin. The faces of Sadra and the rest froze, a look of panic flashed past their eyes. They finally understood that they had neglected an important point. Senior Xin was a spirit general. Temple is temple, they are already used to being the masters of the honorable martial continent. As for the rest, they can only be servants. Howl mocked and ridiculed, not forgetting to add insult to injury. Sadra and the rest's attention was immediately attracted. The honorable martial continent does not need any prestigious families, the honorable martial continent only needs temple. The great clan elder's voice was filled with fanaticism. Seuss's body trembled. Chi. His heart was filled with bitterness. In truth, he had never been willing to admit it. This operation had been planned by the aristocratic families for a long time. They had probably infiltrated temple for many years, and Seuss had already sensed it. Sadra, who had been watching from the side, suddenly laughed and said, "That's right, in terms of researching spirits, no one is more authoritative than Temple." Sadra and the rest heaved a sigh of relief. They were most worried that Temple was willing to promise to rule the honorable martial continent with Macefield tradings in order to turn the situation around. Of course, even if that was the case, they had their reasons, as they had an alliance with Temple in the past. "You only understand now? Sadra, you've regressed." The great clan elder's voice became even more fanatical. "Temple needs a new life, the honorable martial continent needs a new life. Only I can give them a new life. What a pity, Sadra, you won't be able to see it." Sadra stared at Seuss, his face filled with shock. Great clan elder. If there was a way to resist the corrosion of time, Senior Xin would be able to exist for a long time. To the Macefield Tradings family, Senior Xin was their protector, and to be able to prevent their protector from disappearing, it was extremely valuable. When Clan Elder Seuss and Howl rushed to Macefield Tradings, Sadra and the rest were already seated in the hall. They had arrived earlier. Although they felt that Temple no longer had any methods to turn the tables, but no one dared to be careless at such a crucial time. The warning signs were extremely intense, causing all of the hairs on Tang Tian's body to stand. Chapter 9:14. The Great Clan Elder has tricked all the enemies to come to Saint Continent. Saint Continent is a trap, and the Great Clan Elder has definitely set up countless of killing moves. The spirit inside the holy flames started to melt, and golden drops of liquid started to seep out. The golden drops of liquid quickly seeped into the holy flames. The struggling of the spirit became weaker and weaker, it became smaller and dimmer, and when the last drop of golden liquid seeped into the holy flames, the initially blazing white holy flames became a noble pale gold. Whoosh! A wisp of white holy flames emerged from Clan Elder Seuss' neck. At that moment, no one cared about him, as everyone was captivated by the terrifying scene. The stronger they were, the stronger the sense of danger they felt, as they stared at the regiment of golden holy flames as though they were facing a great enemy. What family's glory! What personal value! At this moment, all of that had fled beyond the highest heavens. The intense fear enveloped him, and he just wanted to get as far away from the damned place as possible. The headless Elder Seuss body was like a wooden stake that did not fall, not moving an inch, like a human-shaped candle that was stuck in the ground. That was the only thought in his mind. The unprecedented fear caused him to burst forth with an unprecedented potential, and with an unprecedented speed, he rushed out. Clan Elder Seuss' body seemed to be the best fuel for the holy flames. It burned extremely quickly, and in the blink of the eye, the holy flames had reached Clan Elder Seuss' waist, and the initially thick holy flames had become 100 times larger. Spirit, that is Clan Elder Seuss's spirit. But Tang Tian had never seen a true spirit before. Spirit generals were not spirits, as the secret behind the formation of spirit generals had not been completely unraveled. But the two had an inseparable relationship, and it was widely believed that spirit generals were formed from the obsession and spirit of a martial artist. They would never have thought that it was just a facade created by the great clan elder. In the eyes of Temple, they were just a decoy, a decoy used to numb the traditional aristocratic families, a decoy that would eventually be killed. Compared to the sacred Saint Galaxy, Tang Tian, who came from Heaven's Road, was more familiar with the concept of spirits. Spirit generals, spirit cards, were not anything special in Heaven's Road, but the most common objects. They had different grades, but their essence was the same. Many of the sinners who knew that they were going to be tied to the pillar of punishment would think of ways to commit suicide. He heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. I have finally escaped from that terrifying place. I have truly escaped with my life. However, Qiu Ning knew that this method was very scary and dangerous. When Su's last toe disappeared into the holy flames, the blazing white holy flames were dyed with a layer of gold. The blood drained from his face in an instant. His control of his aura was excellent, not revealing a single trace. Even Tang Tian was fooled. He had perfectly fooled everyone. Qiu Ning's expression changed again. Of course he had heard of the Pillar of Judgment. It was the most cruel punishment in temple, and only the most unforgivable criminals would be tied to the Pillar of Punishment. The sinners who were tied to the Pillar of Punishment, their bodies would become fuel for the holy flames, slowly being burned by the holy flames. During the entire process, the sinners would not die. On the contrary, their minds would be extremely clear, and their perception would be enhanced countless times. The pain would also be multiplied countless times. In the distant horizon, pillars of golden flames shot into the sky from all directions, as if they were golden pillars that connected heaven and earth. When the armies of the four great aristocratic families appeared outside Snow City, he knew that the four great aristocratic families would most likely place the entire city under martial law. Once the entire city was placed under martial law, the security around Macefield Tradings would definitely become extremely tight, and at that time, it would be extremely difficult to sneak in. Temple is truly too terrifying. The great clan elder is truly too terrifying. Qiu Ning did not know how many times he had sighed. The place where clan elder Su stood was empty. It was as if he was facing a great enemy. Every single muscle in his body tensed up. He rushed out for a few meters, then suddenly stopped. He raised his head and stared blankly at the distant horizon. From the start, it was a trap. On Tang Tian's left flank, Ji Zhe did not care too much. The dark red bewitching blade was dragged by his side. His hand that was holding onto the blade was extremely stable and unmoving, but his body that was leaning forward was like a beast that was preparing to pounce. Qiu Ning had snuck in 2 days earlier, and managed to avoid the martial law. The noble and luxurious gold liquid permeated into the holy flames, causing the might of the holy flames to multiply. The noble and luxurious aura made him feel as though he was bleeding. Ever since the ringing of the holy bell, it was a meticulously laid-out trap by the great clan elder. Qiu Ning's mouth was filled with bitterness, thinking about his own family, thinking about the various aristocratic families. They all thought that it was an opportunity bestowed by the heavens, and all of them jumped into the pit of fire without hesitation, but who knew that the great clan elder had long wanted to take action against them. He had never been so afraid, so terrified. Wait a minute. The roof of the hall was extremely weak in front of the golden fiery pillars, and when the fiery pillars touched the roof, the entire roof was vaporized. Tang Tian's eyes constricted. Inside the blazing white holy flames, a faint figure was struggling in pain. His body froze. He turned his head in shock. The golden holy flames behind him soared into the sky. But the holy flames in front of him had completely toppled his impression of the holy flames. Xian also noticed the figure and exclaimed out, "How is that possible?" He rushed frantically towards Qiu Yu's hiding spot. He did not have many friends. Qiu Yu had grown up with him, and their relationship was the best. He wanted to bring Qiu Yu out alive. Everyone stared at the holy flames in shock. All of their faces revealed looks of shock. Even Tang Tian was no exception. What made him even more anxious was that following the holy flames' continuous strengthening, the quantity was gradually changing. The attributes of the holy flames were quietly changing, and he could feel the changes. Chie did not speak any nonsense. She quickly retreated. She knew that something was amiss, and just like how Tang Tian would always believe in her judgment of the situation, she would always believe in her big brother Tian unconditionally in battle. Xiao Man was half a step behind Tang Tian, both of her hands holding onto her zanbato. She guarded Tang Tian's right flank, so that she could provide support at any time. Unknowingly, Xian had the undying sword in his hand. His frivolous face had an unprecedented seriousness, as well as anger, a deep and endless anger. She looked at Xian, who was not far away. The raging holy flames continued to spurt out in all directions. Seuss, who was left with only half a body, had transformed from a human-shaped candle into a huge human-shaped torch. Chiu Ning had silently concealed himself. He had already concealed himself for 2 days and 2 nights. Tang Tian stared intently at the burning corpse. His forehead was covered with a layer of perspiration. His back was even more drenched. That is not a spirit general, Tang Tian immediately sensed it. When the golden droplets appeared in the holy flames, Chiu Ning felt his entire body turn cold. The bone-chilling intent seeped into the deepest parts of his bones. The golden pillar of flames shot into the sky. The holy and cold aura was emitted from the thick and solid golden pillar of flames. That was his deepest experience for the day. He had never felt such fear towards the great clan elder, who was just a symbol in his mind. It was Temple's cruelest punishment, a place that was even crueler and more painful than hell. Stay far away from here. The pure and gentle white holy flames were still majestic and holy, releasing an aura that made people bow down to it. But the scene in front of them revealed an indescribable strangeness, causing everyone to feel a chill down their spines. The great clan elder did not even want to let go of the wavering new prestigious families. He wanted to catch them all in one fell swoop. From the start, Temple had always been supporting and roping in the new prestigious families. Everyone thought that Temple wanted to use them to deal with the traditional prestigious families, and even the new prestigious families were pleased with themselves, thinking that they had a bargaining chip in their hands, a bargaining chip that they could use to benefit from both sides. Everyone's face changed, and the people who were closer all retreated. The holy flames had become stronger, and also more dangerous. The feeling of surviving a calamity caused his body to relax, and his footsteps to become lighter. He planned to leave the place immediately, leave Snow City, and leave Saint Continent. The raging holy flames did not have any berserk aura. It was still majestic and holy, but even more intense, as though there was a god-emperor looking down on all living beings. Even the air seemed to be enveloped by the majesty, and an invisible pressure enveloped everyone. No one stopped him. In a blur, he had rushed out of the hall and onto the street. Sadra's shocked voice came out from behind him. Tang Tian had fought with Roger before, and was not unfamiliar with the honorable martial holy flames. In that exchange, he had suppressed Roger the entire time, and did not give him any chance. At that time, although he felt that the banner of knights truly lived up to their name, but he felt that he had some confidence. Temple, this is Temple. Saint Continent is in danger. Temple is too terrifying, the great clan elder is too terrifying, too deranged. Chiu Ning did not hesitate, he did not care about being exposed, and used all of his strength to rush out. The white holy flames continued to burn silently. Temple had not used the pillar of punishment for many years, but it had actually appeared here. He did not retreat, but took a step forward, and protected Chie behind him. Clan Elder Seuss's soul struggled in the holy flames. The holy flames continued to burn silently, but for some reason, everyone seemed to be able to hear the heart-wrenching screams. Chiu Ning was still searching for an opportunity, but the situation had changed so quickly that he was caught unprepared. Clan Elder Seuss's transformation almost caused him to cry. Chiu Ning immediately judged that the victor of the battle would only be one person, the great clan elder. A trap. What the hell is going on? Chiu Ning's figure had just reached the door when he suddenly felt something explode behind him. A holy and ice-cold aura enveloped his body. His position was extremely ingenious. It was right above the great hall behind the beam. The tense atmosphere in the hall caused everyone to be extremely nervous, and no one noticed him. The intense fear filled every corner of his body, causing his mind to go blank for a moment. He had never encountered such a situation before. The scene was so cruel, so vicious, it had exceeded the limits of what he could imagine. Since a long time ago, Chiu Ning had rarely felt surprised. He felt that he could calmly face all the strange things in the world and would not feel fear. But today, he was truly frightened. Bang! He was not stupid for the great clan elder to dare to do such a crazy and deranged thing. He definitely had a meticulous plan. Such a lively soul appeared in front of Tang Tian's eyes, and it was extremely shocking. When the blazing white holy flames spewed out from Clan Elder Seuss's broken neck, all of the hairs on his body stood. The silhouette was actually Clan Elder Seuss. The two of them were not on the same level. Roger's holy flames were weak flames, but the holy flames in front of him were like the flames of a volcano erupting. Pillars of punishment. Chiu Ning suddenly turned. Behind him, golden pillars of flames continued to shoot into the sky. She knew why Xin was angry. She was equally angry. To even make use of other people's souls, it is truly too vicious. When the soul was completely incinerated, it meant that he would truly perish, and even the possibility of becoming a spirit general would be lost. Thinking about what the great clan elder had said, that he would not let any of the prestigious families go, Chiu Ning could not guess what the great clan elder was going to do next. What kind of method can deal with all of the prestigious families? As a spirit general, the feeling was even more intense. Leave the Saint Continent. I need to leave the Saint Continent immediately. As for a pure living soul, no one had ever seen one before. He was extremely cold, even if he was born in the Chiu family, a family that held grudges against Temple, but in his heart, Temple was still worthy of respect and holiness. He had never thought that such a terrifying and crazy thing would actually come from Temple. Step back a little. Tang Tian spoke to Chie without turning his head. The great clan elder had such deep foresight, everyone was being toyed with by him, and no one could see through his intentions. He was so cold and emotionless. Clan Elder Seuss was loyal and devoted to him, but he had lit a candle on him, and even his soul was not spared. His intuition was extremely sharp, and the feeling was much more intense than anyone else. Seuss's flesh and blood melted like wax, and was engulfed by the white holy flames. Everyone watched as the corpse melted at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the holy flames grew stronger at a speed visible to the naked eye. Chiu Ning suppressed the fear in his heart, and rushed out without caring about anything else. He knew that at such a time, he had to be even more decisive. Any hesitation or thoughts of luck would only cause him to lose the best chance to escape. And it's the great clan elder that is revered by the entire world. No one knew what was going on, but everyone's hearts were filled with unease, as though something terrifying was happening. But no one knew how to stop it. Even smashing their skulls was useless. They could only watch quietly. No one knew what the holy flames were, but they knew that all of the great clan elders' plans were in the terrifying golden holy flames. A golden pillar of flames surged out from the golden holy flames and soared into the sky. Clan Elder Seuss's head was smashed into pieces, revealing half of his neck. Everyone could clearly see the pale white bones and the blood and flesh. Under normal circumstances, the blood that spurted out would form a blood mist. But the strange thing was that not a single drop of blood flowed out from Seuss's neck. But he quickly regained his senses. When he regained his senses, Chiu Ning's first reaction was to escape. The golden holy flames swallowing and spitting of flames became extremely slow, as though every swallowing and spitting of flames was extremely heavy. It was like a god that had awoken from its slumber, and slowly gazed at all living beings. Its gaze seemed to be able to shatter the world.